You're gonna start a war.
This is a war, Nathan, on evil.
People call them cursed. We call them troubled.
The troubled don't need anyone's forgiveness. People keep dying.
We need people fighting for us. We're chasing down the troubled.
This has nothing to do with God.
All that's left now is for you to choose a side.
We're fighting a war. Looks like we've been following in their footsteps.
2011. Haven begins to air season 2 in July. In real time, I was still only 11 years old, so I hadn't yet discovered the show, but I would soon be caught up and be watching each season as it aired weekly. I was nearly up to date. Ratings for season 1 were pretty damn good for Syfy, and season 2 would be about to follow suit. And just like season 1, season 2 would go on to have an all-time top-rated episode as well. So things are looking good for season 2. Let's get into it. Also, we have 2 really important guest stars. One of them even becomes a recurring role for the rest of the series that are introduced in this season. Also, we'll do a really quick tree refresh for everyone. Audrey, and then Lucy Ripley. We think that Lucy is Audrey's past life. That's what we think is happening right now. We've got our favourite man, Nathan. We've got Max Hansen, his recently discovered dead biological father. We've got his recently mentioned dead mother. And then we've got his recently also dead adopted father, Chief. So him and all of his dead parents. Of course, we've got Duke with his supernatural lover / mother of his little baby that he can never have any contact with, if we remember. So that's Duke. Now that we're all up to date, we're all back on board, let's just get into season 2. Season 2, episode 1 is called A Tale of Two Audreys, because that's right, baby, we've got 2 of them now. We pick back up at the double Audrey and Nathan standoff that's going on. And this is where I now have to decide what I'm going to call this new Audrey, because she sticks around for a little bit. So she needs a name that's not just Audrey, because that would be confusing. I feel like I remember fans referring to her as maybe Faudrey, as in fake or like faux Audrey, but that doesn't really track, as we'll find out. I could abbreviate New Audrey to Naudry, but that is in fact Nathan and Audrey's ship name. So I have come up with something that I think will work. This Audrey does in fact have brown hair and is therefore a brunette. So I've decided to call her Broadry for brunette Audrey. That's what I think I'm gonna do. I might regret that later. Broadry immediately stands down because 2 guns are in fact scarier than 1. And then we head over to a fun Stephen King's It reference with a child in a yellow coat, there's a paper boat, you know what's going on, it's It. Duke notices the child on his way to see our least favourite cranky old white man in Haven. That's right, it's the Rev. He's back. Speaking of Duke, he's grown his hair out a little bit between seasons, and he's telling us that he's already going to be serving constant slays this season. Thank you, Duke. The Rev has asked to talk to Duke about his dad, about Duke's dad, for some reason, and we learn that Duke's dad drowned at sea, apparently. His name was Simon. So I'll pop Simon Crocker on Duke's tree. I don't think we officially know his name yet, but I'm putting it on here for just the sake of ease. It's the wrong colour. My handwriting is so clear. The wrong colour would really confuse things for you. All right, there we go. We've got Simon Crocker as Duke's father, who is dead. That's another dead parent for our trio of characters. So the Rev says that he wants to help Duke protect the town, which is kind of strange. Duke brushes that off though and just asks the Rev about his death tattoo symbol, which he's still a little bit kind of caught up on, which is understandable. So then the Rev says that he'll give him info on the death tattoo if Duke agrees to help him with his secret, scary, save the town agenda. Meanwhile, our little Georgie down on the street has lost his boat down the drain. Obviously, of course he has. And then he starts to scream. Duke runs down to help him and finds that instead of a completely missing arm, this child just has an arm covered in blood. So it's not been eaten off, but it is covered in blood. Then, of course, the blood starts to run down the street and spray out of sprinklers. It is officially a bloodbath. It is. We meet up with Nathan, Audrey and Broadry, who has been cuffed and escorted to the Bronco. Audrey is feeling a little bit strange, a little bit alarmed by the situation, but Nathan is like, Broadry's an imposter. It's fine. We're fine.
She thinks she's you, she's not.
Nathan is in denial. We should call him Nathan Denial Warnos. He spends a lot of time there in this series. He really does. A nice little fun detail is that Broadry's car is also the same colour and possibly make as Audrey's car from the pilot that went off the cliff. Audrey is now still really convinced that she was once Lucy,
I was someone named Lucy once.
and Nathan suggests that that could just all be someone messing with her. All of the clues, all of the indications, it's just a prank. Audrey now asks Nathan what his plan is about his dead dad situation. His newly dead dad, his newest dead dad, to clarify, the chief, because both dads did die in one day. Is this still the same day? This is still the same day, right? Nathan doesn't want to address or deal with any of it right now though, but Audrey does in fact point out
Nathan, when the chief of police dies, people tend to notice.
this is something that they're going to have to address.
I'm dealing with it.
He's in a cooler in your car.
Then frogs start raining down from the sky, which is giving the season 1 episode consumed with all the dead birds. This time it's frogs. Which of course brings us to the opening credits time. Folks, we're back in action. It's season 2. The two of them then wonder if maybe Audrey has brought something to Haven related to the dead frogs. Maybe it's her trouble.
The sky did open up and drop frogs on our heads right after she showed.
Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe it's all Audrey's fault. Audrey is really confused about what's going on. She's also bearing a lot of similarities to Audrey right now, both in attitude, personality, and also skill set.
Not easy.
I can do that.
Audrey also mentions that she's now contacted Agent Howard, who we know, obviously, so what's going to happen there? What does this mean? Next up in our strange happenings in Haven, we have a horde of gnats running through town. Nathan and Audrey investigate this. Audrey then offers to help, and Audrey reluctantly accepts the help because shit is kind of crazy right now. Next, Audrey is giving some questionably placed CPR. Audrey recognises not only the tune that Audrey is singing to stay on beat with compressions, but also where she learned this tune. She also has that memory of doing that. Audrey now calls and checks in with Agent Howard, asking about Audrey. Howard says he's on his way to see this woman impersonating a federal agent, because that's not on. So now with a little bit of a confidence boost from that chat with Howard, Audrey explains to Audrey that she has her memories. She's like, this is a you problem, Audrey. These are my memories and you have them. Audrey's not down for that.
You're insane.
Then we get our second ever Stan appearance,
Stan.
which is so exciting. He cuffs Audrey and takes her down to the station. Duke now meets up with Nathan and Audrey and explains the blood situation from earlier with the sprinklers and all of that. The three of them now start to make a connection between the recent phenomena.
Blood. Frogs.
Gnats.
When Duke sees a random woman in a crowd, he seems to recognize her and then he's not thrilled about it. He's not happy to see this woman. Duke leaves Nathan and Audrey to deal with the crazy Haven stuff and heads out. Nathan and Audrey deduce that the biblical plagues have made their way to Haven. The plagues are here. Nathan says he's going to talk to the Rev, which is fitting, of course, and then Audrey says she's going to go talk to Audrey. Also, some flies burst out of a fire hydrant. So that's another plague. If you're checking them off, that's another one. We get some more great line deliveries from the Rev.
Now, this is a surprise.
I've missed them. And Nathan gets all like leany against the wall, and he's decided he's going to be serving constant slays this season as well. The Rev now lists some more of the plagues that we can get excited to see, the last of which he uses to have a bit of a dig at Nathan.
And the death of firstborn sons.
And his only childness.
If I were you, I'd take that last one personally.
Which is mean, he can't help it. The Rev then gets back on his troubled people are damned horse, which is his favourite horse.
I want the curse to ask for God's forgiveness.
And Nathan shuts that shit down.
The troubled don't need anyone's forgiveness. They're born the way they are. This has nothing to do with God.
As always.
He may welcome you back into his grace.
I'm good.
Audrey tells Audrey that she thinks that she's causing the troubles / plagues, and they continue to have some twinning moments.
Walk like a duck.
These two, they're on the same wavelength. It's a little bit eerie. They do help each other track down the movement of the plagues though, so they're a little bit of a dream team. We are back at Duke's boat now, and the woman from earlier treats us to a fun callback to Duke's introduction to the show.
Well,
The two of them clearly know each other, and Duke calls her Evie. There's some steamy tension evident. Duke shuts it down though, because apparently he's got a 3-year grudge with her about something. We have no further information on that for right now. Nathan and Audrey track down a suspect for the plagues. Audrey expresses her concern for Nathan about the last plague and its implications.
You're the firstborn son, right?
Guess I can't be too sure about that anymore.
Either way, we're not gonna let it get to that.
Nathan is appreciative.
That'd be swell.
We have our next plague of dead CGI cows. So that's another one. They're happening. A pretty quick rate, actually. Back at the Grey Gull, Evie approaches Duke again. He still really doesn't want to see her. They drop a little bit of exposition about their complicated history here as well.
I don't want to be in bed with you. I don't want anything to do with you.
At the station, we hear about some boils going on. So that's another plague. Also, we're reminded that no one else knows the chief is dead, which is a bit Orkies. But again, I think that he did in fact die this day. I can't believe that this is the same day. It must be though. Audrey is now coming along to help solve the trouble. Back at the Gull again, we get some crazy hail, which is our next plague. They're not slowing down. Audrey gives Audrey a little bit of an explanation about troubled people in the town.
We call them troubled.
Then Duke comes over to be introduced to her.
FBI.
Yes. No.
Interesting.
Nathan checks if Duke has older brothers. Duke confirms that he does in fact, and then Nathan tells him to come along with the case in case he drops dead and Audrey still needs help.
Why does everyone think that I want to help?
Because it is very likely that our guy is the firstborn's son. He may get taken out by the last plague. I'm a little bit frightened. Duke finds out that the chief is dead.
What happened to him, Nathan?
He died.
After Nathan asks Audrey to take care of the chief if the last plague does in fact take him out. Audrey says, no, I'm not going to do that. Then she makes a joke about the fact that his body / the pieces of rock that used to be the chief are chilling in the back of the Bronco, inside of the esky.
I'm not gonna waste a perfectly good cooler.
Or I guess the cooler. That esky is still in the back of the Bronco and they're driving to the case with it.
You don't mean this cool.
He's chillin'. He's coming along with us. Locusts and darkness now hit up Haven, which does unfortunately mean that we're up to our last plague now, the death of the firstborn son. It's a very scary time for our favourite man. The darkness leaves and then all of the firstborn sons do in fact start dying, including Nathan. Nathan is dying. Audrey discovers that the plague trouble is actually just this guy that makes whatever he reads aloud come true. So he's been reading the Bible, so the plagues are happening now. So this troubled guy now starts to read the Velveteen Rabbit, and then all of the firstborn sons stop dying, which is fabulous news for Nathan. And for me. Nathan and the Rev have a standoff. This is standard procedure now. We know what to expect.
You're gonna start a war.
This is a war, Nathan.
The Rev also still seems really keen on Duke helping him / joining him on his crusade. Evie then shows up and Duke introduces her to the gang. However, Evie now clarifies that her last name is Crocker.
Evie Crocker.
And that she's Duke's wife.
I'm Duke's wife.
Duke's wife?
Wife?
Duke has a wife.
Wife.
Let's pop her on Duke's tree. Here's Evie, Duke's actual wife. Duke tells Evie to leave town because Haven is Haven-ing.
Freakish things happen in this town.
And things are dangerous, so he says get out of here. Evie says no though. She's like, I'm staying in town with my husband. Who is you, Duke? Vince and Dave now come to talk to Nathan directly. They remind him that people have to know that the chief is gone. They also say that he's going to have to be interim chief, which Nathan isn't thrilled about.
Point you, interim chief.
I'm excited about it though, because I love him and he's going to be chief. Next, we see Nathan digging a grave up on a hill for his dad and the esky, kind of by proxy, because his dad's still in the esky. Nathan finds a necklace in amongst the pieces of rock that are his dad's body. So this necklace obviously belonged to his dad. Also, this necklace will become super important for the rest of the series. All the way up until the last season, this necklace is relevant. My favorite thing about this necklace is that Nathan starts to wear it from now on throughout the whole series. He's never not wearing it. It's adorable. I love him. A little necklace wearing boy. Duke now shows up to help Nathan bury his dad. It's very sweet.
You could have told me about your dad.
You could have told me about your wife.
Fair enough.
Thanks, Duke. Audrey and Audrey are having a little we're the same person girls chat at the Gull. They talk about a really dark memory from a foster home that they were at when they were kids.
Coming in her room at night, drunk. She was 12 years old.
It's actually really dark and it's a lot. This story, however, is the reason why they both became a cop, because they're kind of the same person, because they have the same memories. Neither of them have ever told anyone this story though.
I never told anyone that. Neither have I.
But they do in fact have all the same details. Are we following? Same memories. The FBI now arrives. Audrey goes up to her Agent Howard, who is definitely not our Agent Howard. The Agent Howard that we know is not this man at all. Audrey tells her Howard that the imposter she warned him about, that was impostering her, has actually just disappeared and is definitely not sitting right behind them, which is nice of her. And that's episode 1. It's nothing crazy, right? Simple stuff. Easy to follow. Episode 2 is called Fear and Loathing. The episode begins with a beautiful little wake for the chief. I miss him already. Audrey gives Nathan a little sarcastic dig.
I hate public speaking.
Now I know why.
Also, a random guy shakes his hand. I'm going to call that guy Handshake Guy. Next, we have Duke entering a grocery store. A tall guy in a ski mask scares Duke because he's covered in Duke's death tattoo, which really does, in fact, frighten him. And then we have the opening credits. Back at the Gull / currently the Chief's wake, Audrey and Audrey order the same drink, of course. They laugh at some shared memories that they have, as if they're like old friends and not two people with the exact same memories. Audrey also thanks Audrey for not turning her in to her Howard, who seems to be a real FBI agent and not whoever we know as Agent Howard. Audrey then asks Audrey about her Agent Howard, because he's a little bit of an unknown enigma now. Audrey's decided to try and track him down and see what his deal is. Audrey realizes that Nathan's bleeding on his hand a little bit. Nathan goes to wipe it with a tissue. He feels it. He feels his little injury. If we can remember, our man is numb. Like completely numb to everything except Audrey, but he shouldn't be able to feel this injury. He then punches the countertop at the bar, like hard. A hard punch.
Nathan, what are you doing?
He's just making sure. I love him. The two of them drive to the scene of all the scary stuff and question the scared people, because there's not really time to deal with the fact that he can feel stuff yet. Duke immediately asks Nathan for protection from Ski Mask Death Tattoo Man, and Nathan's just overall in a really great mood since he's found out that he's able to feel things.
Curses can be lifted. I can feel.
And then bumps into a door and actually feels it. I love his trouble and not trouble shenanigans. I've said this before. I'm going to keep saying it. Next, some people are freaking out at a bus station, including Vince and Dave. Dave sees what looks like Audrey in an absolutely terrifying red wig and is reasonably frightened by it. It's horrifying. The wig is... Dave says that it's impossible and that she can't be here. Whoever she is in the awful wig. Handshake Guy from earlier comes to Duke's boat and he's asking Duke to get him across the border, which, if we remember, Duke is a smuggler and can apparently smuggle people. I don't want to get into the implications of that. We're moving on. Audrey and Audrey arrive at the next scary scene, and Audrey sees a genuinely horrific and scary clown, but all that Audrey sees is just a young girl. Audrey does remember this scary clown that Audrey saw, and they both agree that it was the scariest thing that they've ever seen. That is so beyond fair. So now Audrey realizes that when people see this young girl that she saw, they see their worst fears. Audrey also explains to Audrey that they don't really know why, but Audrey is just usually not affected by troubles like this. It's kind of the first time that this is overtly explained and acknowledged. Nathan tries to make a little dig at Audrey for the clown fear,
Clowns.
and she reminds him that he's no longer numb.
Don't forget you can feel pain now.
It's raining now. I'm sorry if you can hear that. Handshake Guy is back on Duke's boat and he's offering cash to get him across the border. He really wants to get out of here. He's also wearing a really odd necklace. Audrey then shows up at Duke's boat. Everyone's on Duke's boat. Audrey gives Duke the very welcomed information that the death tattoo guy wasn't actually real. And then she asks for Duke's help finding Audrey's Agent Howard, the strange, not real Agent Howard. Duke's initially unhelpful.
No, I don't know.
But then Audrey threatens to turn him in on some criminal behaviour. Duke obliges after that because he's still a criminal. He owns a bar now. Surely that's enough income. We can stop. Nathan is now touching up a flower in his office. That's not a euphemism. That's just what he's doing. To be fair, it would be really crazy to suddenly feel everything. So now on the drive to their suspect, Nathan is touching the flower to his lips. and he reminds Audrey that this is, in fact, jarring for him.
Still getting used to this whole feeling thing.
Also, they awkwardly talk about when Audrey kissed him on the cheek in season 1 and he felt it. Like he felt the first thing that he'd felt for a really long time.
That was the first time in years that I felt another person's touch. Didn't feel too weird about it.
Why would I feel weird?
Exactly.
Adorable. Next, we see the young girl from earlier, and she's sporting some sick sunnies inside, which is weird. Nathan and Audrey arrive on the scene and find her boyfriend now. He says that he suddenly saw an attacker from his childhood and stabbed him. Audrey lets him know that that was, in fact, his girlfriend that he stabbed. Nathan and Audrey follow after her, and Audrey checks if Nathan actually wants to come with.
Are you sure?
Which is a warranted thing to check, because when Nathan sees her, he's absolutely terrified. He's shook. He won't tell Audrey what he saw though, and we never find out. Audrey goes after Sunny's girl and shows her that Audrey can look at her and not be terrified, which this girl appreciates. The troubled girl, Sunny's girl, her name is Jackie. Jackie explains that she was attacked a little while ago, and then afterwards her trouble went away for a bit, but it came back that morning. Audrey explains that when Jackie regained her trouble is also the exact time that Nathan lost his trouble. The attack on Jackie and the cut on Nathan's hand do in fact seem to be the catalysts for the trouble disappearances.
Something strange is going on.
Bold statement.
So now they realize that someone must be borrowing people's troubles, and that's their trouble, to borrow troubles.
Steal other people's afflictions.
What a trouble to have. Then we see Handshake Guy contort himself out of a chimney and then steal a puzzle board. Nathan and Audrey arrive and realize that with Nathan's trouble, squeezing into that tight of a space wouldn't hurt.
Sounds painful.
Not if he couldn't feel it.
And I guess you'd be able to do it. I don't know about that though. He seemed to be breaking bones. I feel like no. Audrey notes that there was already a missing puzzle piece, and then we see Handshake Guy take it off his weird necklace. So that's what the necklace was. And then he puts it into the puzzle board, and then a real life building that looks like this puzzle piece just incinerates. So that's how this puzzle board works. Vince then explains that the puzzle was made by a troubled person who created it in order to destroy the town. Back on Duke's boat, he's burning something with a blowtorch. He accidentally touches the really hot metal and burns his hand. Handshake Man then touches the same burning metal and doesn't react to it. Duke then tells Nathan and Audrey that Handshake Guy can't feel anything.
Mention anything about a puzzle?
What?
So the two of them then head to Duke's boat to deal with that. Audrey does quickly tell Nathan that it's probably not a good idea to touch Handshake Guy because it might transfer his trouble back into him. And we don't want that to happen. We like Nathan being able to feel things. Jackie and her boyfriend are on the boat with Handshake Man. They wanted to get him to take Jackie's trouble away again. It hasn't gone well for them though. Handshake Guy is trying to use the puzzle to destroy the town. That's his plan. Just by the way, things get heated and Nathan shoots Handshake Guy and he starts to bleed out. Duke says that if Handshake Guy dies with Nathan's affliction, then it might go away forever, like it might die with him.
That means Nathan will be cured, right?
Nathan hears this possibility and then grabs some of Jackie's blood and puts it onto Handshake Guy. Handshake Guy then dies fully, and Nathan touches his own hand to confirm whether or not his plan has worked, and then he goes over to Jackie and looks her in the eye because her trouble has now died with Handshake Guy. We love Nathan.
Beautiful eyes.
Only love and praise for Nathan Warnos in this household. Only love and praise. Vince and Dave take care of the Haven destruction puzzle. They just kind of say, we've got it. We'll sort that out. That is a puzzle that can destroy the town. We never hear about it again. Nathan is now sadly touching his hand wound that he can't feel anymore. Elsewhere, Vince asks Dave what he saw at the bus station. He asks him if it was Lucy, to which he says no, and he wishes it was. Audrey and Nathan discuss the weirdness with Audrey at the moment. They kind of debrief on that a little bit. Audrey then says that she's really impressed and proud of what Nathan did for Jackie. He tries to deflect any kind of compliments though.
Not every day you can help save an entire town, although it is happening more often lately.
Finally, he admits that though his trouble is really hard to deal with,
My affliction's tough to live with, but Jackie's is impossible.
which is true. Audrey then touches Nathan's hand and he's shocked again by feeling her touch, of course. Audrey then leaves and Nathan picks up a petal and he places it against his very numb lips. Poor guy. Episode 3 is Love Machine. It opens with a guy on a boat. Happens a lot in Haven. The boat starts to do some weird boat stuff on its own, and then it drops a whole net of dead fish on this guy. Just a whole net. We catch up with Duke, Audrey, and Audrey, and they are in the loft above the gull. This is once again one of those huge set pieces for the rest of the show that we are now first introduced to. Duke is offering to lease it to Audrey, who's been staying at a B&B this whole time. That's expensive. How long has she been here? Duke also has time to make a fun comment about the Audreys.
Not as nice as the blonde one, are you?
Audrey finally admits that her memories are Audrey's life.
My memories are really your life.
We've admitted this. This is in fact a her issue. Audrey asks Audrey if she's ever heard of Lucy Ripley, but she hasn't. So she's not connected to that. Audrey does, however, have some coordinates that she found when she visited Audrey's Howard last episode. It wasn't important at the time, I'm just telling you about it now. She found some coordinates. Audrey says these coordinates lead to a location off the coast of Haven called Kickham Jenny Neck.
Called Kickham Jenny Neck.
It's a very fun name, and I do get to say it a lot. Audrey has to go to a case now, though, and Audrey says she's just going to check it out in the meantime. She's going to go to Kickham Jenny Neck, and she's going to sort out what that is. Nathan and Audrey arrive at the scene, and Nathan is, like, curled up in his little jacket because it's raining, and oh my god, I love this man. Nathan points out to the boat owner that he's the chief now.
Actually, it's cheap.
Put some respect on our guy. He's the chief. The guy that got drowned in dead fish earlier is a little bit unhappy about the situation. He's about to get a whole lot unhappier though, because the boat starts to do stuff on its own again and then drops a really heavy thing onto Fish Guy, killing him. The dead fish wasn't so bad, my guy. They ask a British guy that has fixed up the boat about if the boat has ever been weird, and Audrey notes that this British guy seems to fix up a lot of stuff, and that's something that is important. Another construction machine forces their suspect into a fan, killing him. Nathan now floats the idea that maybe the machines are just controlling themselves, which could be a reality in this town. Next, we see Duke in the loft doing a little dance to himself, and then Evie walks in. Evie wants to rent the loft, but Duke says he's already rented it out to the Audreys. So now Evie gets all up in his grill, and it's steamy between them again. There's some steam. Audrey rocks up though, and interrupts the steam. Audrey and Nathan are back at the station, and get jump scared by a printer.
I've always hated that thing. It comes to life. I'm a goner.
Back at the Gull, Audrey asks Duke to take her to Kickham Jenny Neck. He's reluctant, but then she shows him some mysterious file, and then he agrees. So the two of them head off to Kickham Jenny Neck now. That's where they're going. Audrey and Nathan head to the local ice rink, which is a fun thing to be in Haven. They have an ice rink. There's a puck machine in there, which is going haywire. Puck machine that shoots pucks at people. How does Haven have this? Nathan drops some sarcastic zingers.
When it hits me, at least I won't feel it.
As always.
What, I'm from Maine. I've been hit by hockey pucks a lot.
Upstairs, there's also a piano doing its own thing. Nathan and Audrey take a look at it. While doing so, Audrey starts to absentmindedly play it a little bit. Then she realizes that she doesn't know how to play the piano, but she is playing it somehow.
You had piano lessons somewhere.
More specifically,
Audrey Parker never learned how to play the piano.
Audrey then says that maybe Lucy Ripley did.
Maybe Lucy Ripley did.
And that's how she knows how. Back to the case, they find out that the British fixer-upper guy has fixed everything that's come to life. So obviously it's his trouble. We know how this works. Back with Audrey and Duke, they talk about relationships, and it's clarified that Audrey's memories diverge from Audrey from the point that Audrey got to Haven.
Met Brad after your Audrey got to Haven.
That's when, that's when they start to have their own memories. Audrey then arrives at a barn in the middle of nowhere on Kickham Jenny Neck. She enters this barn and looks very concerned about what she sees. But we don't see it. But she's concerned about it. This barn is super important as well. Unfortunately, it looks a lot different later. Like even the surroundings are very different later, but that doesn't really matter because it's just the barn as an entity is really, really important. Nathan and Audrey arrive at the British guy's workshop again and then get immediately locked in there, and all his equipment starts trying to kill them. Nathan takes a few nails to the back from a nail gun that shoots at him by itself.
Whoa, we gotta get you to a hospital.
He's way too chill about it.
It's fine.
He's very chill about all of his injuries,
No, just because you can't feel anything doesn't mean you're not injured.
so he's like, it doesn't matter.
We'll bleed less if we leave them in.
Can't feel it. Duke goes looking for Audrey on Kick 'em Jenny neck. She pulls a gun on him and she's really shaken up. She's not doing so hot right now. Nathan and Audrey realize that the British guy's machines are coming to life because they love him and they don't want him to leave town. Back at the ice rink now, a Zamboni tries to kill the British guy's girlfriend.
You're about to be killed by a Zamboni!
Our gang, of course, arrives to save her. British guy has to get really sensual with the Zamboni to stop it from killing his girlfriend. It's uncomfortable.
He's a good girl.
Nathan drags the girlfriend away so that the machines won't keep trying to kill her. And yes, he does in fact still have the nails in his back. Back at the station, Nathan has finally tended to his wounds, which is nice to see. What's not so nice to see is that Audrey has lost all her memories after stepping inside the barn. So Audrey reminds her who she is.
Your name is Audrey Parker.
She has to dissect all of the things that define her in order to explain to Audrey who they are, kind of collectively.
You became an FBI agent because you felt that if you could help people in trouble, that you could connect.
Duke notes that it's just like the day that the Colorado kid was found,
It's like the day we found the Colorado kid.
when no one could remember anything. There's lots of memory loss. That doesn't slow down ever in the series. Duke brings in the guy that Audrey mentioned she was dating earlier, and Audrey does actually remember him. At the Gull now, Evie has stolen the mysterious file that Audrey had on Duke, and she's cranky with Duke. Nathan and Audrey have now gone to Kick 'em Jenny neck to investigate the memory loss sitch. However, instead of the memory erasing barn, they just find a big old patch of dead grass. So there was a barn there, but it's not there now. It will be back. Duke looks at the mysterious file and it's got some clues about his death tattoo in there. So I don't know how Audrey found that, but she did, and now Duke has a little bit more info on that. Now the song that closes out the episode is the same one that Audrey was playing on the piano at the ice rink. It's a cover of Your Song by Elton John. Audrey's playing it again at her loft where there is conveniently a piano. Regardless, it's a really beautiful emotional closeout.
When you get your wind chimes, I'd hang them here.
There? Seriously?
And it does get me. Episode 4 is titled Sparks and Recreation. And yes, there is some comedy in here. The episode opens at a kid's baseball game, which is apparently a big tradition and a big deal in Haven. We get a really great interaction between the Rev and Nathan.
Nathan.
Reverend.
Hi-ho, Sea Dogs.
Hi-ho, Sea Dogs.
Love it.
Not a word.
Couldn't if I tried. I think my head just exploded.
The mayor shows up and everyone loves him. Mayor? Mayor? Mayor. I'm having an accent crisis. Sorry. Anyway, everyone loves this guy, this mayor. Everyone's obsessed with him. It's basically the way that I feel about Nathan is how the whole town feels about this guy.
He's a great man.
The mayor's son then shows up and Audrey notes that he's kind of a jerk.
That's the mayor's kid.
He's kind of a jerk.
He's also played by Jason Priestley. He's here. Now, 90210 was a little bit before my time, but I do recognise the significance of his appearance on Haven, especially because he continues to be a pretty significant character in this season, and he also makes a couple of reappearances down the line. He even directed one of my favourite episodes from season 3. So the mayor suddenly has a complicated opinion about a baseball play that I don't really understand, and the audience changes their minds immediately to just agree with him. Audrey does notice how bizarre this is. She's not under his spell. An electrical pole starts going haywire and the hairs on everyone's arms stand up, so there's electricity happening. Everyone flees except for a little idiot kid who just stands there on the field. So now Audrey has to go save him. Good job, kid. Just move out of the way. Now this episode is also the introduction of Dwight, who is literally played by The Edge, which I mentioned in part 1. His name's Adam Copeland though. I should stop calling him The Edge, but it's just very funny to me. He is now in the series a whole lot. I think he becomes a regular from season 4 onwards. I do end up really kind of loving him. I also love how incredibly jarring it is to see how small he makes everyone else look, including Nathan, who is 6'2", but he makes them look real small. It's very funny. Moving on, Dwight says he cleans things up in Haven, and he's been doing so for a while. So he says he can make this incident look like just a regular old electrical malfunction. So thanks, Dwight. The mayor shows up again and everyone loves him again. Nathan is adorable.
Yes, he is.
Audrey is really confused by Nathan's submissive reaction to the mayor, but she's unaffected by his charm again. Audrey's immune? Could be a trouble. Audrey directly calls Nathan out, but he's in denial.
I don't worship him.
You just agreed to speak in public.
Nathan denial Warnos. So now the mayor's doing a press conference before getting electrocuted in front of everyone and dying. He does die. From this, Jason Priestley shows up, also known as the mayor's son, also known as Chris Brody. That's his character's name. He's Chris Brody. Nathan suddenly calls him a great man. Everyone around him starts loving on him too. Audrey's confused initially, but it's not hard to realize what's going on. Duke is chasing the death tattoo lead from the mysterious file that Audrey gave him. Evie shows up out of nowhere. She's here. Audrey notes that they're dealing with an electricity trouble as well as a popularity trouble at the same time.
Question is if Chris has both.
Audrey and Nathan go to see Chris, and I wish I could just include this whole scene because it's so fun.
What, you think I killed him?
What? No. No.
Chris hates that everyone loves him. He doesn't enjoy it.
I don't need another tray of beef stroganoff.
I hate stroganoff.
And Audrey points out that Chris has inherited his dad's popularity.
Were you aware that if your father died, you would inherit his popularity?
Chris is also a marine biologist in Haven.
Though I'm the idiot studying marine biology in a town where the laws of science are meaningless.
That's what he does. He's holding a tool thing that can electrocute fish, I guess, but then it electrocutes Nathan, and therefore Audrey thinks Chris that has both troubles, but Nathan's chill about it. He's not worried.
Didn't even feel it.
Audrey interrogates Chris about the electricity situation that just happened. Chris asks her why she isn't obsessed with him, and Audrey really does enjoy that this frustrates him. And so do I. Later, Duke is less than subtle when checking out Evie's ass. Chris is super into Audrey because she hates him.
You're in a lot of trouble and I don't like you.
That gets him going. Suddenly, everyone starts getting electrocuted again, and Nathan notes that Chris may not be making Audrey love him, but he is getting under her skin.
I haven't seen that before.
That's ridiculous. He's obnoxious and he's a suspect.
We see Dwight cleaning up another electrical phenomenon situation. Thank you, Dwight. Duke and Evie find a little jewelry box on their quest. That's something that they discover. Nathan and Audrey are trying to solve the electrical trouble, but Audrey calls Chris to help them out, and Nathan is less than pleased because now he knows that Chris's trouble affects him and he doesn't want it to, because that's embarrassing.
If that's his plan, you're not gonna look at me?
No.
The three of them do end up solving the trouble together though. Nathan and the Rev stand off once again. This won't stop anytime soon.
I'll put you in jail. That's the threat.
Audrey talks to Chris after all of the chaos is over, and he just asks her out. She agrees, and their chemistry is pretty cute. I should put Chris on here. He is a romantic interest of Audrey's now. An official one. I know that Nathan and Audrey, of course, but nothing official has happened. Oh god. Chris Brody, everybody. Him and Audrey. Is he in the frame? Not at all. I'll fix him in a minute. Don't worry about it. He's here. Dwight and Nathan have a little talk, and Dwight says that Nathan reminds him of his dad, of the chief, not of Dwight's dad. Nathan reminds Dwight of the chief.
Remind me of your dad.
I really like that we aren't just brushing over the chief's death. He was not only Nathan's dad, but also a huge part of the town and taking care of the troubles.
We need people fighting for us.
We can't let him go, just like that. We remember him. Back at the Gull, Evie and Duke do hook up now, finally. It is hot. It is a good time. In the midst of the hot hookup, they knock over a blue light lantern that Duke just has laying around, apparently. It kind of rolls over to the little box that they found. When the blue light lights it up, the box says Crocker. It's giving Invisible Pen. Episode 5 is Roots, and yes, it's very rooty. Could have a double meaning. We're not addressing it. It opens at a wedding rehearsal outside by the woods. There's some tension between the bride and groom's families. The families are the Novellis and the Keegans, by the way. A football gets thrown out of the woods by nothing, and then we hear some woodsy creaking sounds. Audrey's taking Chris to run a couple cop errands at the rehearsal dinner before they go on a date together. So I fixed him. He's sort of in the frame, not really. Chris is here. They run into Duke and Evie at the rehearsal, and they both fawn over Chris, and Chris hates it, as per usual.
Must be hard to have beautiful women falling all over you.
Unfortunately, it's not the one I want.
Audrey witnesses the family's conflicts. Then she hears a struggle and goes to investigate. The bathroom has been torn apart and someone has been dragged out into the woods. Of course they have. She tries to call Nathan for backup with this, but there's no signal. So Audrey goes out into the woods on her own. We see a man wound up in the roots way high up in a tree. So I'm going to go ahead and say that he's dead. Vince and Dave taunt Nathan a little bit about Chris and Audrey going on a date. That's mean of them. This is also where the show decided to pop up signs in scenes for Vince and Dave's Twitter that they had. Again, this is 2011. I was 11, so I was not on Twitter. I'm sure it was a great time. Audrey questions the bride and groom about the woods incident. Like, do you guys know what's happening there? We get our first instance of Chris trying to use his trouble to solve things really quick for Audrey, and it doesn't work, so she tells him to back up. Sure, that won't have to happen again. Then we find the bride's father, who is a Keegan, and he's all ripped up and super dead by the edge of the woods. I think he's the same guy that was in the tree. That would make sense. Vince and Dave's car has broken down, so they radio Nathan to come help them. Their call signal on the radio for Nathan is Baby Bear.
Copy that, baby bear.
Which I'm obsessed with. Everyone at the rehearsal thing is traumatized and cranky. There's a lot going on. The bride and groom are also not loving each other right now. It's not really giving we're about to get married. It's giving people are getting murdered in the woods. Then the roots from the woods start to emerge and chase everyone. Everyone runs into a barn to escape the killer roots. The tensions between the Keegans and the Novellis is at an all-time high. They're hating on each other right now. So the roots wrap around the barn and trap them inside. Nathan arrives at Vince and Dave's broken down car to help them, and then the roots emerge from the woods, trapping them in that car. Chris and Audrey clash on how to deal with the current situation. Chris is a science guy.
Observe what they do. That's science.
And Audrey's a people gal.
Wanted you to help that poor girl.
Very different philosophies that I'm sure won't interrupt their relationship in the future.
They're a science project, like me, because I'm immune to you.
Come on, don't make this about you.
No, I'm not making it about me.
Sure, that'll be fine. Evie tells Duke that they should leave Haven and all of the craziness going on, and Duke says that he can't. Duke also tries to get a look outside through a window, and the roots scream at him. Back in the root-wrapped van with Nathan, Vince and Dave, Vince and Dave talk to Nathan once again about Chris and Audrey, and they point out that Nathan and Audrey have a little bit of a thing, so maybe he's jealous. He's in denial, of course, but also it's very obvious that you two have a thing. Don't be surprised when people call it out. The Keegans and the Novellis go at it again, and a root snakes its way into the barn. It sneaks in. Duke saves Audrey from it, and then Evie seems to clock their chemistry, which is very obvious to be fair. So then she gets jealous. Audrey realizes that the hatred between the families is what makes the roots all murderous. So Audrey just tells everyone to reconcile and get over it so that everyone can get out of the barn and not get killed. Meanwhile, Nathan has used a flare to fight off the roots to get inside the barn and save everyone. However, Audrey is now like, thanks, but I've sorted it.
I think we got it.
All the couples from inside the barn now hold hands to get out and separate the roots, and Nathan really does get hit with the jealousy. Now he does feel a little bit jealous. So the trouble originates from a twin that married off way back, and it's not a weird inconsistency that two families have a combined trouble.
Each twin got half the family curse.
The show makes a point to mention that and give it an explanation, which I appreciate. Evie says that Audrey is the reason that Duke won't leave town, but he denies it, and then he drops a little bit of a bomb.
It's my dad, okay?
That his dad made him promise before he died to come back to Haven if the Troubles ever came back.
And you promised that I would come back here if the Troubles ever returned.
So Simon said, Duke, you've got to come back to Haven after I die if the Troubles come back. You've got to do that. So Duke obviously is like, I have to find out why he said that. So then Evie makes a really creepy phone call.
His dad never told him.
And the person on the other end says that they have to keep pushing Duke. Don't love it, Evie. Chris shows up at Audrey's loft bearing flowers. Audrey is now all flirty and out of work mode, which is very rare to see. Chris is super sincere and very complimentary towards her.
You are amazing.
Their connection is really nice here.
Threw together this dinner after we had the worst date ever.
So they skip the dinner part of the date and get right to the sex part of the date. They sort of streamline that. Whilst they're starting to get it on, Audrey's phone lights up with Nathan's name, so obviously he's trying to call her, but obviously she doesn't pick it up. She's busy, but it does make me sad. Episode 6 is Audrey Parker's Day Off, baby! It's one of my all-time favourites. It's also giving more Groundhog Day than Ferris Bueller, but Audrey does, in fact, attempt to have a day off, so it works. It opens with Chris and Audrey in bed. Audrey explains that it's her day off, and Chris says that he's made plans for them. Audrey does have some small cop business to do in the morning. The two of them run past Duke downstairs at the Gull so that they don't get questioned about obviously spending the night together, and also so Chris's trouble doesn't affect Duke. Duke calls out to Audrey as she's running away that her rent is due. He's also drawing up a Taco Tuesday sign for the Gull. That's what he's up to. Audrey has to do career day at the school. That's her cop business. A child speeds past her on a bike. The kids at career day ask her some fun questions. Audrey is distracted by work stuff on her phone. Chris says the world won't end if she stops working for one day. But Audrey does in fact get called away to a case, and she has to bail on her day with Chris. Audrey then shows up at a crime scene and sees a very somber looking Nathan carrying a kid's bloody shoe. He sternly blocks her from going any further towards the scene. He says that she does not want to see what happened to this kid. And then he mentions that the kid got hit by a car.
Paramedics couldn't do anything.
No, thank you. Then, suddenly, Audrey wakes up, once again, in her loft with Chris. That's right. It's repeating. We're in a time loop. It's time loop time. Audrey is initially confused and wondering if it's just deja vu or a dream. This is Haven, babe. It's obviously not. Downstairs, Duke is drawing the Taco Tuesday sign again and asks for Audrey's rent again.
You're trying to get out of paying your rent check, right?
Rent.
Chris and Audrey arrive at the school again, and the speeding kid on the bike flies past again. The same kids ask the same questions, you know the drill. Audrey now heads to the station and tells Nathan what's going on. He says this,
You're stuck in my second favorite Bill Murray movie.
which really does make me wonder what his first favourite Bill Murray movie is. I would like to know. Audrey explains what she knows about the crime scene, as much as she got to see. Nathan clarifies that no one else has noticed that the day's repeated except for Audrey. Also, this is the first time that Nathan says that Audrey is immune to the troubles.
We know you're immune to the troubles.
I don't think he's said that before, but he's saying it now. We're all accepting that that's what's happening. Audrey wants to track down the kid wearing the shoes and try to stop the accident and therefore the time loop. She thinks that maybe that's what will do it. So this time around, Duke is actually in town to cash Audrey's rent check. So next we see that instead of the child, Duke gets hit by the car this time. Audrey immediately notes that the rent check
You weren't here before. The rent check.
is why he's in town this time and therefore got hit by the car. Duke is dying now, of course, and Nathan and Audrey are absolutely distraught. It's really hard to watch, and the actors don't treat this like an inconsequential time loop, not permanent death. Specifically, Emily has to really bring it this episode, and as we see, she slays it. Duke does in fact die, and the time loop starts again, so it's okay. He's still with us. Audrey rushes out of the loft straight away, and she goes downstairs and hugs Duke, which is confusing for him, but he does appreciate it.
Good morning.
However, then he quickly gets distracted by Chris Brody.
Love happens here.
Audrey tells Duke and Chris to stay at the Gull. Don't go into town.
I will pay you your rent tomorrow.
Then, of course, Audrey meets up with Nathan at the school, and she quickly proves to him that she's in a time loop.
And a kid on a bike, no helmet.
You're stuck in my
Second favorite Bill Murray movie. We had this conversation.
She tells Nathan about what happened, and he makes a comment about Duke dying,
Duke died. Would have been something to see.
to which Audrey does this.
Ow!
Once again, Nathan being shocked by feeling Audrey is so fun. They walk the streets to keep an eye out for the accident, but it's very traumatizing, but this time it's Nathan that gets caught in it. He gets impaled. However, at first he thinks that he's okay.
I'm okay.
He's not. Audrey points out the big old chunk of wood that has impaled him in the gut. Whilst Audrey rushes over to him, her hand brushes a piece of exposed wood. As Nathan collapses and bleeds out, he gives Audrey a description of the car and the driver. Lucas does a really great job of acting like you're dying, but also you can't feel any pain whilst you're dying.
This is kind of strange.
Which doesn't, in concept, really feel like that easy of a task. This scene is especially hard to watch because of how much I love Nathan, first of all, but also because he says this.
Doesn't hurt. The only thing I feel is you.
Too much for me. Audrey then, of course, wakes up and Nathan is okay, but this time her hand is still cut from the day before, which means that if she does die in the time loop, she's for realsies dead. So we should avoid that. Chris and Audrey head downstairs to Duke again, and she speeds through giving explanations.
First, I'll get you your rent tomorrow. Second, yes, Chris and I are sleeping together. Third, don't do payroll today.
I hate payroll.
Next, she runs into the station to see Nathan, of course, and his sweet little still alive soul is blowing on his coffee so that he doesn't burn himself. You know what I'm going to say. You know what I'm going to say. I love him. Audrey is, of course, very relieved, and she tests his coffee temperature for him.
I just give it a minute.
I love them. Audrey fills him in once again, and they decide to try and track down the driver based on Nathan's description from the time loop before that he kindly gave us whilst he was dying. Audrey tells Nathan that this time he's not allowed to come into town, which is fair. I also would prefer that as well. Audrey grabs his hand and begs him to stay at the station.
Please.
They're too good. They're too good together. So this time Duke wasn't actually able to keep Chris at the Gull and out of town, so he shows up in town to see Audrey. He wants a bit of an explanation, but Audrey can't right now, and so Chris has a tantrum and storms off. Audrey then sees a man on the side of the street struggling to cross and doing some kind of obsessive ritual. Audrey finally helps him cross the street, and then a car comes speeding towards Audrey, about to hit and kill her, but Chris pushes him out of the way and gets hit and killed himself. So all 3 of Audrey's men have died. That is a lot for her and for me. Also, the man trying to cross the street before the time loop restarts, he tells Audrey that this is all his fault. We start again, and she immediately tells Chris that he and Duke have to stay at the Gull, and she can't tell him what's going on. Don't come into town, can't tell you what's going on, please listen to me. I would like to point out that she continues to tell and trust Nathan with all of it though. I would like to point that out. She approaches the man from the previous time loop who said this is all my fault. He explains that he has OCD. This is how the time loop's happening. That's kind of how his trouble is manifesting. Nathan and Audrey are back at the station, and she tells him the things that haven't worked in the previous time loops so that they can rule out doing those. She also explains her fears about not being able to stop this.
It's not gonna happen.
That's what you said the last time.
I bet I meant it then too.
Audrey tracks down our troubled man, and he explains how his condition affects him, and Audrey explains what his trouble is doing. She kind of clarifies that you're giving us a Groundhog Day moment. So this man decides that the only way to stop his trouble is to be the one that dies in the accident. That's a decision to make. So that's what he does, despite Audrey trying to stop him, of course. He dies in the car accident. After all of this is solved by a man dying, Nathan and Audrey meet up at the Gull and debrief on the day. Audrey says she feels like a failure, and Nathan says this.
You can never fail me.
I'll stop saying it for a minute. Chris comes out to see Audrey, and Nathan avoids eye contact with him because of his trouble. He also kindly clues Duke in to the trouble as well.
What? Chris is troubled. You don't look at him. You don't get all man crush.
Which is a fun moment.
Oh.
Audrey tells Chris he should go to London for a work opportunity that he's mentioned. He clearly knows something is up with her, but he doesn't push her, which is nice of him. She's dealing with a lot. Nathan and Duke turn away from Chris at the bar because they don't want to be affected by his trouble. It's very funny. Finally, we close out on a shot of a very exhausted and traumatized Audrey. We hate to see it. Big day for her. Big day. Episode 7 is The Tides That Bind, and it's a weird one. Also, I've reclined a little bit. I hope that looks okay. So the episode opens with a bunch of boys singing a scary chant at the end of a dock. They push a little boy into the water who is tied to a brick, so he's going to sink and drown. The other boys that aren't currently drowning continue to sing their little song. They're unbothered. And then a man with Duke's death tattoo walks up to everyone, sees the drowning boy underwater, and does nothing. Not concerned about the dying child. Next we have Nathan and Audrey rocking up to the scene of the same man who is unbothered, who has now drowned and washed up on the rocks. We also meet our new medical examiner. Duke shows up at the station asking about the dead guy because he somehow heard about the tattoo. I don't know how. Nathan tries to shoo him out.
Find out anything pertinent relating to your imminent demise, and I will let you know.
The dead man's ex-wife is informed about his death, and she says a bunch of the people in his family also have the death symbol tattoo, and also that their son Daniel is missing. A lot of information from her. So the dead guy is a part of the Glendower family, and they're apparently really strange. Nathan and Audrey go to visit their secluded place. Unfortunately, it is in fact giving cult. It's giving cult. The Glendowers then say that Daniel belongs with them. Nathan and Audrey tell these people to bring Daniel out to them, and then guys with guns enter the scene and tell Nathan and Audrey to get a warrant. Very suspicious stuff. The Rev is chatting with Daniel's mother and has told her that he can get him back. Nathan hates this. The Rev says the Glendowers need to be cleansed from the earth, which, knowing him, probably means that they're just troubled. Nathan finally gets the Rev and his men to stand down for a little bit. Audrey finds out that the Rev thinks the Glendowers killed his wife, so that's an added reason for him to hate them. Not only are they troubled, they may have killed his wife.
Cole's responsible for his wife's death. That would explain why he's looking for a fight.
Audrey then suggests that her and Nathan should break into the Glendowers' place.
We take an unofficial look.
Nathan is hesitant,
Last I checked, breaking and entering was a felony. I want to do something, but I'm the chief now.
but eventually agrees.
I say no, you're going to go out there anyway, aren't you?
That's how their relationship works. Audrey says we should do something questionable. Nathan says, oh, I don't know. And then he goes, yeah, okay, we'll do it.
I bet you look good in black.
At the Glendowers' place, Audrey finds a picture of the Glendowers, the chief, and Lucy all together. They're all hanging out together for some reason. Then they both find Daniel seemingly drowning in an overfull bath, which is unfortunate for him. He sits up out of the water, and then Old Man Glendower shows up and pulls a gun on Nathan and Audrey. The Glendower man is trying to push Daniel back under the water. When he does so, a weird spiral thing happens inside of the water. It's giving I've pulled the plug out of the bath, except the drain is this child's mouth. They explain that all of the men in their family stop being able to breathe water when the troubles come back, and they have to straight up migrate into the water, into the ocean.
We migrate to the sea.
And become sea people. Not the weirdest, but one of the weirdest troubles that we get on the show. Old Man Glendower also explains that he was, in fact, having an affair with the Rev's wife. Spicy stuff. Spicy Rev lore. The woman with the Glendowers actually does turn out to be the Rev's ex-wife, and she's totally not dead.
Faking your own death?
This is a lot of information about the Rev. The Glendower boys get kidnapped, which is not great, because soon they won't be able to breathe air. Nathan and Audrey think that the Rev took the kids, because that is in fact a reasonable conclusion. When Nathan and Audrey go to the Rev's place to look for him, they find Duke in his office. It is raining again. I'm sorry, we got a break, and now it's raining again. Nathan and Duke have a really childish little spa, which is fun to see.
That's for you.
You know what, boys, not now.
Everyone heads over to the Rev, and it turns out he doesn't have all of the kids, but this is a weird episode. Glendower men start hilariously shooting out of the water and attacking the Rev and his people. This is such a weird episode. Finally, everyone gets the watermen to stand down and stop shooting out from the ocean. Then Nathan shoves the Rev against a wall. I would, in fact, be lying if I said it wasn't hot. That would be a lie. Daniel's mother has actually taken all of the kids, and they are struggling to breathe air. So the gang now arrives, and Daniel's mother wants the Rev, and only the Rev, to help her. The Rev is being annoying about it though, so they bring out his very much alive wife. Surprise, asshole. He convinces her to let the kids go back to the Glendowers so that they don't die. The Glendower men are now by the water and in funky capes. The whole gang is also here, and Audrey is serving a cute little hairdo that we haven't seen before. She's slaying, as always. Audrey then tries to get some info on Lucy and finds out that she disappeared a few days after the Colorado kid died. So after this pic, a few days later, poof, Lucy was out of town. Also, it's said that when the Colorado kid died, it was the first time that anyone in town saw Lucy cry.
It was the only time that anyone ever saw her cry.
And she was presumably there for like a hot minute, and she never cried, except when the Colorado kid died. This is interesting information. Meanwhile, Duke is trying to get more info on his death tattoo that a bunch of the Glendowers are sporting. Like a bunch of them have it. Old Man Glendower says that people that are troubled and willing to stand up and fight people like the Rev are the ones that get this tattoo.
There are those who will fight.
So Duke then asks why they all want to kill him. Old Man Glendower says that all he knows about it is that they have been told to keep an eye on Duke in case he decides to follow in his father's footsteps.
Being watched in case you decide to follow in your father's footsteps.
So everyone's concerned that Duke is going to start acting like Simon for some reason. I think this is where we learn that his name's Simon. It was easier for me to have a name for him earlier. Anyway, Evie and the Rev are now having a chat and watching over Duke really creepily, and the two are obviously working together. It's not very slay of Evie, not so slay of you. Everyone says goodbye to the Glendower boys and men, and they start to descend into the water. It's supposed to read as really sad and dramatic, but I cannot take it seriously. I cannot. I struggle with it every time. It takes them so long to get under the water. Like, they are just waiting with the capes for so long. I can't. It's so funny. I do, however, love the scene of Nathan and Audrey watching it happen from some rocks. The two of them talk about how now they know that the chief and Lucy used to work together to help troubled people in Haven. That's a revelation that they've now got, that these two were besties and they would help all the troubled people in town. Familiar?
Looks like we've been following in their footsteps without even knowing it.
Episode 8 is titled Friend or Foe, which is clever and fun, much like this episode. We open on a dude getting out of bed and his seemingly identical twin exiting the shower. The two of them seem to have very different personalities. The more reserved twin then suddenly shoots the other one in the head. Then this twin that's still alive gets in his car, but then another twin appears and insinuates that this happens a lot, like this is the usual for them. At the Gull, we see a kid trying to help out Duke. The kid says he saw something he wasn't supposed to see. The new scary twin arrives at the Gull and starts spinning a coin on the counter. He's super sus. He asks Duke if there's a kid named Henry working for him, which we know that there is, but Duke says there's not. Scary twin guy says that he knows that Duke's lying, so Duke pulls a gun on him, and then there's a shootout. There's a lot of those this episode. Look forward to it. Duke tells Henry to run, and then Scary twin drives off. That was a lot. Audrey and a bunch of cops have arrived, obviously. There was gunfire. She asks Duke about the incident, and Duke explains everything except the Henry part.
Like to spin a coin on my bar like a dreidel?
Audrey knows that he's not saying everything.
You're not telling me everything.
He just shit-stirs her instead of divulging any more info.
I've never been windsurfing naked, and deep down in my heart, I know that Bigfoot is real.
Hey, Nathan. All you missed is Duke not telling me everything.
Thanks, Duke.
Sorry I missed it.
It turns out that the twin guy, his name is Cornell. Nathan mentions the struggle of being chief in Haven.
You know, sometimes editing the troubled out of our official reports, it feels like half my job.
Yep. Doesn't seem like an easy job.
That's why the selectmen pay you the big bucks, chief.
So Duke sets out to help Henry, like go find him, and he arms himself with a shotgun. Nathan calls Chris Audrey's boyfriend and mentions that he sent her some Vegemite. So, oh no, Chris. But yeah, they're official. Also, the Vegemite comment.
My memories are not my own. I remember not liking Vegemite doesn't mean that I don't.
Gives us this super fun interaction.
You'll lead a very complicated life.
Tell me about it.
I would probably rate Nathan's accent a solid 7 out of 10. But he gets most of those bonus points just because I love him. The two of them arrive at Cornell's house. The normal twin Cornell is home and not the crazy one. They chase crazy Cornell's car to an abandoned complex, and guess what? They find Duke there.
Duke, what are you doing here?
Can we discuss this later?
There's another shootout, and Audrey hits Cornell straight in the chest because she's a slay shot. We know this about her. The three of them discuss the situation a bit.
You okay?
I'm really good, thanks for asking.
Do you think he has a twin?
What are you doing?
Checking him for the tattoo. The tattoo is some kind of symbol for a secret society of troubled people.
Before another Cornell shows up, out of nowhere again, they're just appearing, and Duke explains to Nathan and Audrey about Henry. Finally lets us know that there's a kid.
Oh, great. There's a Henry he hasn't told us about. Fantastic.
So now the trio set out to find Henry and help him not get killed. They do find him, and he says that he saw Cornell kill someone, and that's why he's after him. So he witnessed a murder. Then Duke and Henry and Audrey and Nathan get split up from each other. Nathan and Audrey run into a Cornell, who says that he's the original and not the evil one. He shows them a bunch of corpses that look just like him. He calls them his copies as well. There's just a pile of bodies that look exactly like him. He also tells the two of them that these copies are trying to kill Henry, but he doesn't know why. Henry and Duke have a heart-to-heart about fathers, and this might be a really fun spot for me to mention that throughout the series, it's very well established that each of our main trio have a really, really serious case of daddy issues.
Fathers are tough.
Nathan's are obvious. Duke's are about to become obvious.
Leaving my family behind, that was the best decision I ever made.
And then later on, even Audrey gets a turn. Really good stuff for our trio. We discover that Audrey is actually stuck alone with Crazy Cornell, and Nathan has run into Original Cornell. Crazy Cornell starts spinning a coin, and Audrey remembers that that's something Duke mentioned that he did at his bar. Audrey tries to pull her gun on him, but he trips her and grabs it. So then the two of them start having a little chat, and I want to mention that this guest star does a super good job. The guest stars on this show are not always great, so it's really nice for someone to have a more complex role for one episode and just really nail it. This chat between Crazy Cornell and Audrey blatantly spells out the parallel between the two that we've got going on. Audrey asks him all the questions about himself that she's been asking herself.
Do you ever wonder if you're real? If we have somebody else's memories, then what makes us us?
We really grow to understand how she's been feeling like not a real person at the moment.
Forget everything that I'm not, and every day I gotta figure out what I am.
And her identity is difficult to comprehend, to say the least. She's on the struggle bus.
He wants to be just a copy.
Then she suddenly girl bosses her way to getting her gun back. Audrey cuffs Crazy Cornell to a pipe.
I cuffed him to a pipe, so he shouldn't be going anywhere.
Your copy's cuffed to a pipe.
And he feels like he's been played, but she does admit that what she said is all true. She's like, I was playing you, but also I am struggling. Crazy Cornell seems to have grown a bit fond of her as a result.
When I kill you, I'm not gonna be happy about it.
Audrey, Duke and Henry find each other, but Nathan is still alone with Original Cornell. Crazy Cornell shoves himself onto a pipe so that he can die and then respawn. Nathan and Original Cornell come across a body behind a brick wall. This makes Original Cornell knock Nathan out with a brick. I maybe should have started a knockout counter for Nathan, because damn, he gets put out cold a lot in this series. We learn that Original Cornell killed the man in the brick wall, which caused his copies to start coming. Crazy Cornell tells OG Cornell to kill Nathan, which is stressful, but then Audrey calls Nathan's phone to distract them and make that not happen. Thank you, Audrey. We get another shootout, ladies and gents. How exciting. Duke and Audrey run out of ammo pretty quick though, which is not exciting. Audrey decides to try and reason with the Cornells, more specifically with Crazy Cornell, because they have their cute little bond going on. Crazy Cornell eventually shoots Original Cornell, saving Audrey and unconscious Nathan before disappearing from existence. Thanks, Crazy Cornell. After this, Nathan gets fired as chief because of the whole not putting the troubles in the police reports thing that they have to do.
Since when do we want the troubles in reports? Since someone wants me out.
Then he also gets this really fun threat.
It's the Rev, isn't it?
You might want to leave Haven.
Excuse me?
Things are going to get a little rough for your kind.
And I'm not going anywhere.
In order to deal with this, Nathan heads to the Gull to drown his sorrows. That's what he's decided to do.
Flying raisin.
Drunk Nathan is phenomenal. I do really appreciate him.
Why not?
Thank you.
Duke says that he needs photographic evidence of drunk Nathan dance time, which is a fair thing. He takes this picture on Evie's phone. He then sees a text from the Rev on Evie's phone, thanking her for the info on Nathan's falsified police reports that got him fired. Excuse me? Episode 9 is Lockdown, and I love it. It opens with Nathan running into Dwight, having been arrested. He towers over the arresting officer.
You sweating?
It's warm out here.
I wouldn't say that.
Before Nathan walks over to get him uncuffed. Nathan also clocks that Dwight has been running around with a crossbow. This is a bit strange. Nathan offers Dwight a donut
Sprinkles.
and then explains that there's a new chief in town.
I think he's clueless about the troubles.
Won't be for long.
Just watch where you point this thing.
The arresting officer from before suddenly has weird, dark, veiny hands before they start to run up his neck and onto his face, which is now bleeding, and then he drops dead.
That is so Haven.
Audrey is in the office, popping on some lippy, and Nathan lets us know that she's going on a date.
It's not a date.
No, sure, of course. That's why I've never seen you so nervous, because of your non-date.
He keeps falling. Maybe he knows what's coming. Anyway, Duke shows up at the station to tell Nathan about how Evie is responsible for getting him fired as chief. He's sharing that information.
But how the hell is Evie involved?
You got me. I mean, think how I feel. I'm married to her.
Thank you, Duke. In the middle of their conversation, they spot some blood spilling out from underneath the bathroom door. So that's alarming.
What the hell is that?
Elsewhere, Chris walks into the office and immediately grabs Audrey and kisses her. I cannot blame the guy. I cannot blame him. Audrey gets a call on her radio then and has to hit pause with Chris. Everyone opens the bathroom door to see the arresting officer looking really dead and super veiny. Sick veiny, I should clarify. Then we meet our new chief, Chief Merrill. He thinks that it might be a chemical weapon. In Haven?
We may want to consider other possibilities.
Then we see that Evie now has super strange veins and like inky fingertips, much like our dead cop, which is not ideal for Evie. Chief Merrill sees that this has happened, understands that this situation is now contagious, and then he puts the station on lockdown.
This is a lockdown.
There's a guy named Hugh in the station who's a doctor, which could be helpful. Could be. The new chief makes all his staff surrender their weapons, and he makes everyone in the station give up their cell phones. So this makes Audrey hide a gun with Stan in the evidence locker so that she can access a gun in case shit goes haywire. So she has a gun that's accessible. Hugh, the doctor man that I mentioned, he says that what killed the cop is nothing from the known medical record. Surprise.
I don't think Haven's in the known medical record.
Nathan contacts Dwight on the radio, and I really like this shot. It's really pretty. It might be because there's double the Nathan in it. I have a problem. I think it's diagnosable at this point. I'm down so bad. Nathan and Audrey wonder if Chief Merrill is causing the vein sickness, and they go to confront him. Chief Merrill informs them that anyone leaving the station will be shot.
There are armed men outside this building who will shoot anyone seen leaving.
Audrey and Nathan have understandable reactions.
Shot? Who the hell are you?
It's a little bit much. Chief Merrill? Audrey and Nathan realise that the Rev brought Chief Merrill to town.
The Rev brought you here, didn't he?
And the Rev is responsible for the armed men outside who were totally down to shoot anyone leaving the building. Surprise, it's the Rev. We're not shocked. Then Chief Merrill also gets all veiny in his face, and he also starts bleeding, and then he also dies. He does get to tell Nathan that his kind won't win though.
Your kind won't win.
Before he dies. R.I.P. Chief Merrill, we barely knew ya. Dwight confirms that there is in fact snipers outside and they're watching the station, ready to shoot people. Nathan and Audrey find Chief Merrill's key card that grants them access outside, but the risk of being shot or releasing the veiny disease to the rest of Haven is a little bit too high.
They could wipe out all of Haven.
Audrey figures that she's probably immune to the vein disease, so she's just going to question everyone in the station and find out whose trouble it is. Meanwhile, Nathan confronts Evie, who swipes the keycard from his pocket. Nathan asks Evie why she got him fired and is working with the Rev. We want to know what is going on with that. She says that the Rev and his people want to help Duke.
He said it would be helping Duke.
Duke walks in to hear the rest. Because he should. This is information he should be in the loop on. Apparently the Rev's men told her that Duke needs to learn things. Just general things, I guess.
He said that you were important and that you needed to learn certain things.
And that Nathan would be a problem for him.
Nathan needed to be out of the way because it'd be a problem for you.
So they got him fired. Evie says that the Rev and his people think that Duke is special, and she agrees.
You're special.
Evie says that whatever is going on in Haven, they think Duke is in the middle of it. Duke wants more info, but Evie doesn't have it, apparently. Duke is super upset that she lied and betrayed him. Poor guy. That is rough. That is your wife. Evie susses out the outside situation now that she has the key card. She's like, ooh, I could get out there. Nathan finds Audrey and tells her that Evie and the keycard are missing. We're finding out that this is an issue. Evie has now in fact gone outside and she's yelling at all of the men with guns, telling them to tell Duke what he wants to know. I guess she thinks that is something that's going to work for some reason. Of course they shoot her. Duke runs out to get her and we hear the sniper on his little radio tell all of the other men with guns not to shoot Duke specifically.
Hold your fire, not him!
Duke carries Evie inside. She apologizes to him before dying. R.I.P. Evie. I'll change her font to black, but she's staying on the board because she's married to Duke. So that's how it's going to work. Love interests that aren't connected to our main trio by marriage or like a child, which is why Helen is still here, they leave. But anyone that's kind of really tied into the family is going to stay. It's my trees, it's my rules. Evie Crocker, now in black text because she's dead. Oh, Simon's in purple. Simon's dead. Sorry. Clearly the colour of the text is what's going to help you understand because my handwriting is impeccable. There you go. Duke has 2 dead people on his tree. Duke shuts down emotionally a fair bit now, which I get, and he tries to leave the station and confront the people that just killed his wife. Nathan does stop him, but then Duke hits him.
Duke!
So then Nathan knocks him out.
Nathan!
It's a fun exchange.
You saved his life.
Battery change. Alright, we're back. So now Audrey speaks with a woman who she thinks might be causing the vein disease trouble situation. Chris pokes his head in to show her that he now has the vein thing too. Audrey lets it slip that the woman she's currently with, whose name is Nikki, is the one responsible for the vein disease. So Chris just starts trying to use his trouble to get her to fix him. Audrey confronts him for his inappropriateness.
What has happened to you?
He says he's got to get out of the station to get help and that no one would actually shoot him because of his trouble. Audrey humbles him on that.
Nobody wants to shoot me.
Really? You're a scientist. Tell me, what works faster, your trouble or a bullet?
Rightfully so. In response, he says this.
Just let me do my job.
Man, I wish my affliction worked on you.
So then Audrey slams the door in his face. Again, rightfully so. Audrey tries to get back to helping Nikki stop her trouble from veining people up and killing them. Nikki's abusive husband is back in town, hence the triggered trouble. Elsewhere, the doctor says he can help Chris get out of the station, but they'll need a gun in order to do so. Chris remembers Audrey's backup gun that she gave to Stan, so he uses his trouble on Stan in order to get that gun. Audrey realizes that Nikki's husband is in the building, and that's why she's kind of set off her trouble. And then Hugh, the doctor, bursts through the door with Audrey's gun, and we learn that he is the abusive husband. So thanks so much for giving him the gun, Chris. That was really helpful. Chris tries to reason with Hugh, and Audrey tells him to sit down.
Sit down. You've already done enough. You already gave him my gun.
Rightfully so. Sit down. That's this whole episode. Sit down, Chris. The most reasonable thing you did today was just immediately see Audrey and kiss her. Hugh doesn't like that Audrey's roasting Chris because obviously Chris's trouble is affecting Hugh, so this then isn't ideal for Audrey. Hugh then realizes that Audrey's not getting the vein disease, which means that he's going to have to kill her himself. Apparently, that's his plan. On the other side of the station, Duke is in lockup and Nathan is gearing up for an attack that Dwight has warned him about. Chris distracts Hugh, the abusive husband, while Audrey tells Nikki to turn her trouble onto her asshole husband. She's like, turn it around, kill him instead. Nikki does so, and it is so slay. What a win for our girlies right here. Everyone with the vein disease gets better, but the men outside with all of the guns are still coming in.
They're coming in.
Why?
What about the curse and everyone else?
Dwight rushes in the door at Nathan and shots start getting fired right at both of them, like directly at them. When the shooting finally does stop, Nathan checks himself for bullet wounds and if he got shot, because that's something that our guy has to do, because if he got shot, he wouldn't know. He has to do a visual check. Upon checking himself, he sees that he's not shot at all, not even once.
None hit the walls. I'm not hit, I don't get it.
All of the bullets actually hit Dwight in the chest / vest though, so it's okay. But they all hit him.
Bullets, they tend to find me.
Dwight's a bullet magnet.
Bullets tend to find you.
That's his trouble. He is a magnet for bullets.
That's your trouble.
Also, this explains his crossbow, because, yeah. Later on, Duke is looking real sad at Evie's body. He's just staring at his dead wife's corpse. The Rev confronts him during this moment, and the Rev says he can help Duke understand what's going on, but Duke will have to prove himself. Duke thanks him, but seemingly laments doing so. Weird vibes. I don't like it. Oh, Nathan is chief again, as well. Just kind of by default. Nathan and Audrey recognize that the Rev is in the middle of all the chaos in town, and him and Audrey have a really dramatic standoff. Stare-off? It's a stare-off, and it's a lot. It might be too much. At the docks, Audrey and Chris essentially break up, so that's kind of over. It started out pretty cute and nice. It was cool to see Audrey kind of in that mode, but it did run its course. I'm not really sad that it's over, and neither is Audrey. She's just kind of content. She's like, yep, that was fun. See you, Chris. Chris is leaving now. He was trying to leave. Bye, Chris. See you later. Episode 10 is Who, What, Where, Wendigo. Once again, this episode is so great. Another all-time fave. I love it. Let's go. It opens up in a diner where we see a man getting attacked by an unseen force. So pretty much the usual. Nathan and Audrey show up at the scene and Nathan is checking in on Audrey after the Chris breakup.
I'm good though. Getting a lot of stuff done. You?
I didn't just go through a breakup.
She tries to deflect.
You did just get demoted. There was anarchy at the police station and the new police chief died right in front of you.
But our boy isn't having it.
I didn't go through a breakup.
He's like, come on, your tree's looking a little bit barer. Let's talk about it. Audrey questions the guy that got attacked in the cold open. Apparently, he witnessed a serial killer during the ordeal that's loose in Haven. So that's fun. It's also not the only serial killer that we're going to be dealing with in the series. Except next time, it's a lot scarier. Dwight gaslights the man into believing that he was attacked by a bear and that it wasn't a weird Haven phenomena. So thanks, Dwight.
I guess when you look like a Viking, people just believe what you tell them.
Audrey and Nathan pick up on a blood trail that leads into the woods. Now, I do have to point out that Nathan and Audrey are serving Slay this episode. More so than usual. Look at them. Look at them. I'm sorry. This is good stuff. Audrey says to Nathan that they can't really call him back up because of the whole police station situation that happened last episode.
It's just you and me.
What does anyone else in the Haven Police Department do? I don't think they're all that helpful. A teenage boy named Rory has been chased into the woods by the serial killer. So the father of the boy wants to head into the woods and track him down. Dwight wants to come along and help find this kid. Nathan is understandably hesitant because of the revelation about Dwight's trouble last episode. There's probably going to be guns involved, and this man attracts bullets directly to him.
You are a bullet magnet, Dwight.
Audrey also gives Duke a call and asks if he wants to come help out to try and get his mind off of his dead wife.
I just thought, chasing a serial killer might take your mind off things.
While I appreciate the generous offer,
He says no. Vince and Dave are also recruited to help with the search.
Just you and me just became you, me, and them.
The crew all split up into pairs and start looking for Rory. Vince asks Dwight if he's been to visit Lizzie recently and heavily implies that Lizzie is dead and that because of her death, Dwight may or may not have a death wish going on. It is then revealed, but not in a super heavy-handed way, which I appreciate, that Lizzie is Dwight's dead daughter.
Yesterday, Lizzie would have been 9.
So that's unfortunate. Meanwhile, Rory's dad is questioning Audrey's tracking skills, and she quickly humbles him.
You're standing on the evidence.
They find a dead raccoon that's been mauled.
He probably thought he was going to have a good day.
And then immediately after, they find a mauled human. It's the serial killer. So that's one problem solved. The serial killer's dead. The mauling of him is a little bit of a concern. The whole crew meet back up, and Dave says there's probably a Wendigo in the woods, which is a really fun and funky revelation.
It eats people.
Dave also explains what Wendigos are in Haven lore, which is a fun little twist.
long before these woods were state park, they were the Wendigo's hunting ground.
Dwight points out that there are definitely human teeth marks on the killer's corpse.
Nothing else looks quite like people being eaten by people.
So it's for sure probably a Wendigo, if not just a straight up cannibal. Audrey asks if Rory's dad thinks that there's any chance Rory could be a troubled cannibal, but he shuts that down. He's like, no, my son is not eating people on the weekends. Nathan and Dave hear something on their search, and then they come across not a Wendigo, but Duke with a rifle. The Rev and his men are also here too. We hate to see it. Duke is now seemingly working with them, which is obviously upsetting news to Nathan and Audrey, and to me. Everyone puts their guns down after Audrey spits some girl boss orders at them.
I could take out 2 of you before anybody gets off a shot.
I did tell you that she was slaying this episode. You did have warning. She asks Duke what he's doing here, and Duke is just really weird about it.
Some concerned citizens trying to protect our town.
What's going on, man? What are you doing? Don't like it. Nathan tells the Rev to get out of here, but Rory's dad unfortunately says that they could use the help finding his son. So I guess he's sticking around now. Nathan then confronts Duke. He tells Nathan to stay out of his way. Duke is not being our regular fun boat-dwelling smuggler right now, and I'm not here for it. Audrey expresses her concerns to Nathan about Duke and the Rev.
How do you explain him pointing a gun at your face?
Nathan drops some very ominous predictions about the sitch.
The Rev's been talking a long time. I think he's finally making his move. Somehow Duke's a part of it.
Later we see Duke and Dwight paired up, and Duke calls him Sasquatch for the first time.
Sasquatch.
Something that apparently Eric Balfour just decided to do, and it stuck. Duke roasts the crossbow a little bit.
Nice crossbow. Going to a Renaissance fair?
And then Dwight has a very scary vision of a little ballerina girl. I hate it. On the outskirts of the woods, Nathan drops some squirrel knowledge. Guess what? I love him. They find some bloody clothes before Rory comes shooting out of the woods. Not shooting with a gun, he comes bolting out of the woods. He claims that he did in fact kill the serial killer. Another guy from the search party also comes running out of the woods real quick, and he says that a super fast human bit him on the leg, and then Rory books it back into the woods. Okay. Nathan notes that the Wendigo doesn't seem to be after Rory.
I think it's after us.
Thinks it might be a them issue. Later, everyone sets up camp for the night in a frankly very scenic location. It's very nice to look at. Duke comes over to talk to Audrey. She immediately roasts him.
Who the hell do you think you are? You lie to me, you threaten Nathan, and then you come over here and you ask for fire tips? Get out of my face, Duke.
It's fantastic. Duke then reveals to her that he's kind of undercover with the Rev to find out what he knows.
You can trust me. I know exactly what I'm doing.
Audrey does in fact question his logic.
You do realize one of those guys killed Evie. Don't act like you don't care about that.
Understandably, but Duke makes it clear that he still hates the Rev and what he did to Evie.
The Rev killed Evie.
So that's comforting, at least. Duke says that the Rev knows a lot about his mysterious death tattoo symbol situation that's kind of looming over him still, and the Rev also knows a lot about his father, who we have only heard bits and pieces about.
Evie, the tattoo, my father.
We really don't know all that much about Simon, but we've heard some things that are worrying. Duke expresses his frustration with the whole not knowing what's going on thing, and Audrey just says same, buddy.
Welcome to the club.
Get in line. I've got shit that I'm dealing with too, actually.
I don't know who I was when I learned it. Can you believe that?
But then Duke says this.
With you, Audrey, there's nothing I don't believe.
Which is sweet. Audrey then warns Duke that maybe he won't want to know about his father, like maybe he might get information that he doesn't want.
But some doors you kick open, you can never close again.
Foreshadowing, maybe? Maybe that's something that this show's kind of good at. Then we hear some more fun noises coming from the woods. Everyone heads into the woods, which feels ill-advised. Nathan trips into a mauled deer, like he falls into it. Yuck. And then he runs into a teenage girl and a smaller child, with blood dripping from her mouth. The teenager says that the small one is hungry. Elsewhere, Audrey runs into the Rev and she roasts him.
But when your men splinter off to play action here, it puts the whole group at risk.
This episode, Audrey is just roasting men, left, right and centre. I'm so here for it. The Rev says he plans to wipe out all troubled people.
So now we're gonna do what we should have done a long time ago. Wipe them out.
This man is crazy. Crazy. The Rev walks away ominously and then Audrey is grabbed by a bloody hand. But it's okay because it's our favourite man's bloody hand. And he takes her over to see the girls. He introduces them and explains that they are in fact Wendigos. Audrey is concerned about whose blood is all over the small child's mouth, but she says chill, babe.
Don't worry, it's from a deer. You have some on your face.
It's established that while they hunger for people, these guys only eat animals. It's giving Cullen household. Audrey calls them out and is like, well, what happened to the serial killer then? And then they explain that they have a third sister who is dating Rory and apparently running around the woods eating people. The search party then starts to approach, so the girls run away, and Audrey informs Nathan that the Rev is just going to straight up start killing troubled people from now on. Anyone that's troubled, the Rev is just down to murder. The next morning we see the third sister and Rory hanging out, just discussing cannibalism casually. Rory says he's going to head out and get her some food. I'm sure that's not going to be a problem. Duke and the Rev keep chatting, and the Rev says he's going to tell Duke everything once this is all over. So that's exciting for Duke.
That's a conversation I look forward to.
The Rev says that Duke's dad failed to save the town, but he thinks Duke can.
Saving our town. I believe it's your destiny, son.
Then Rory knocks the Rev out with a rock and drags him away. Dwight, Nathan and Audrey head out to find the other two sisters again. The small one is looking very ill because of being really hungry for people meat. Dwight scoops her up and says he can take care of that, which is a spooky implication. What does that mean, Dwight? Are you going to feed her somebody? I don't like it. Nathan and Audrey stay with the older sister and try to find the third sister before she eats the Rev. I'm okay if that's what she wants to do. I think we should let her. And this is exactly what she's about to do. Dwight is chatting to the small sister as he carries her out of the woods. He talks to her about his dead daughter.
My daughter loved ballet.
What's her name?
Lizzie.
Before stepping into a bear trap. Not ideal. He tries to pry it off his foot a little bit and then tells the little girl to eat him. He just says, eat me. I guess he does have a death wish. The child just says no, thank you, and just waits for him to get himself out of the bear trap. Which isn't an unreasonable thing to do because look at the guy. Of course he can get himself out of a bear trap. And yeah, he releases himself and gets out of the bear trap. And then they both head on their merry way again. Meanwhile, the third sister chickens out of trying to eat the Rev. Very unfortunate. But then the Rev tries to kill her, but Audrey shoots him in the chest and kills him, which is very fortunate. Once again, I did tell you Audrey was slaying this episode. This moment is so great. It was such a shock. She just murdered the Rev. I love it. Nathan asks her if she was aiming for his shoulder.
You were aiming for his shoulder, right?
Which is a reasonable thing for a cop to ask. But Audrey gives him this look, which indicates that no, she wasn't doing that. Duke is unhappy to see that the Rev is dead. Nathan informs the group that Audrey followed procedure in killing him.
Officer Parker followed procedure and prevented a murder. It was a proper kill, end of story.
Everyone relax, even though she didn't actually follow procedure. She followed my procedure. I'm down. Dwight has a little bit of a limp after stepping in a bear trap, but he's otherwise fine, of course. He's now taking the sisters out of town somewhere where they can maintain their lifestyle, I guess? I don't think I want to know what that means. I don't want to know how he's helping these kids eat people. I think I can do without that info. Also, we see a picture of Dwight's little daughter that he has in his car, which is very sad. Audrey's doing a little bit of a lean on the Bronco right now and giving Nathan a very charged look. Duke walks up to her and asks why she didn't aim for a non-fatal spot on the Rev. Duke tells her that the Rev was about to give him all the secrets and he's pissed that she killed him.
An hour before you killed him, I was dangling the keys to Haven in front of my nose. Because of you, I got nothing.
Audrey is like, Duke, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I screwed up your plan.
I'm not sorry about it. They have this exchange where Audrey is once again just handing out roast this episode. It's so great.
If you were with the Rev and he was about to kill that little girl, would you have stopped him?
Honestly, I don't know.
You need to figure that out, Duke.
Then she drops this absolutely iconic line.
Because while you're looking for answers, the rest of us, we're fighting a war. I did what I had to do.
After that, to close out an absolute banger of an episode, Audrey walks over to Nathan and they stand with each other looking very somber, but also very sexy. That's their specialty. Episode 11 is business as usual. It opens with a marathon happening in Haven. That's something that they do. How cute. There's a guy that's really struggling, which is so fair. But then he starts to dry out and skeletonize, which is a little bit less relatable. Audrey and Nathan arrive at the scene and they banter right off the bat.
Hot enough for you?
I wouldn't know.
Your shirt does. You're hot.
Audrey wonders if maybe when she was Lucy she ran a marathon, because Audrey Parker didn't. She's trying to be really lighthearted about the situation, but I think it's more just repressing it. She's repressing the possible reincarnation. Nathan tells her that something else she's too chill about is killing the Rev. A little bit too chill about that situation. It has been cleared as a clean kill, but Nathan says that everyone in town is real worked up about it.
It's gonna fade away.
Right now, it's all anyone's talking about.
Dwight arrives on the scene and says there's a meeting that's going to happen in town with a bunch of troubled people who are preparing for any backlash from the Rev's team of people now that he's dead. Nathan thinks that this meeting with the troubled people is just going to create more tension.
Maybe I should shut it down.
He's not on board. And we do see that people are in fact pretty worked up. At the station, Nathan is on a super secretive phone call about something that is apparently really important to him. What is that? Nathan tells Audrey that they really have to keep the troubles on the down low. At the moment,
Even quieter than usual. We need to let things die down a little.
we get another dried up body and we learn that both of the victims were troubled and they were going to be attending the troubled person meeting. Nathan comes up with a theory that Audrey clocks as a little bit concerning.
Maybe Stu hates himself so much he wants to kill people like him.
The fact that you came up with that profile so quickly, that worries me.
The two of them arrive at the house of the troubled guy who was organising the meeting, where they discover that he's been taken, which therefore means that someone in town has a big old list of troubled people.
Knows the name of every person going to that meeting.
Not super ideal, considering war that we're having on troubled people right now. Not a good idea to have just a census of them. Duke is packing up Evie's stuff on his boat because she's dead when he finds the crocker jewelry box thing, and he finds a note as well from Evie saying sorry from beyond the grave and discovers the secret writing. So now he knows that it says Crocker. Audrey and Nathan interrogate a suspect who is a douchey lawyer. Nathan lets him go in order to protect Audrey from any more backlash. Things are not looking so good for her. Everyone on Team Dead Rev is really not happy with Audrey. And Audrey's really not happy with Nathan doing this.
I am trying to protect you.
I need protecting now?
She asks Nathan to tell her what he really thinks about her killing the Rev.
Do you think I did the right thing?
He says that he agrees with her killing him, of course.
You did what you had to do to save that girl's life.
But tensions are really high in the town, so he has to pull back a little bit.
I can't do my job if I'm under indictment.
Audrey sasses him, as she's known to do, and Nathan's real upset about it. Trouble with our faves. We hate to see it. Duke goes to Vince and Dave about the Crocker box. They're sus as usual, but Duke's not having it.
I think the box should stay with me.
Vince and Dave drop some ominous lines.
Time this town faced its realities, all of them.
So I guess it really is business as usual for some people in town. When Duke arrives back at his boat, he sees there's someone inside. It's Dwight is inside Duke's boat. The two of them fight. Dwight's here to collect the Crocker box, and so when they're fighting for it, a key flies out that we didn't know was in there. The two of them continue to stand off until Duke realizes his odds in the situation, and then he attempts to de-escalate things.
We don't talk enough, me and you.
Once again, it's important for me to note that Duke has a little bit of a half unbuttoned shirt moment here. It's not going unnoticed. Duke makes sort of an alliance with Dwight for the time being. Audrey and Nathan are staking out a suspect and have a chat and try to reconcile a little bit because of their spat earlier.
Why am I the bad guy for trying to help you keep your job?
You're not a bad guy.
Audrey opens up to Nathan a little bit about how she feels like her ability to help troubled people is the only thing that's not Lucy Ripley or Audrey Parker, that's just her.
I think that that's just me. I think it may be the only thing that is.
Nathan appreciates this, but he still tries to talk some sense.
You gonna help people from a jail cell?
Audrey continues to be chaotic though.
That man is jaywalking.
Damn it.
She's not slowing down. Back at Duke's boat, he drops a line about his dad and their less than close relationship. These two not having such a good relationship. Back with chaotic Audrey, she's cuffed the douchey lawyer suspect to a pipe for jaywalking.
State law, you need to cross at the corner.
Nathan is fed up with her dangerous behavior.
It's not that you don't care about getting fired, you want to get fired.
I'll be fine.
I won't.
And he drops his first overt kind of hint towards the fact that he's so in love with her.
Parker, you're not just my partner. Not anymore.
We already knew. That's not a secret. Our missing troubled guy is tied upstairs and sort of in the process of being burnt alive, which is not a great time for him. So Audrey saves him because his sweat kills people. When you touch his sweat, you dry out into like a skeleton husk and die. But obviously not an issue for our immune girly over here. She's fine. Dwight tells Duke that he's a bullet magnet. He finally lets him in on that info.
If a gun goes off within 100 yards, the bullet veers off towards me.
And Duke actually finds out how Dwight discovered that he was a bullet magnet.
How does one come to find that out?
In Afghanistan.
Rough stuff. They also bond over daddy issues.
I think your dad and my dad would have been bosom buddies.
Nathan and Audrey console the deadly sweat guy, and they all discuss how dangerous Haven has become for troubled people. It's not a good place for them to be right now. Deadly Sweat Guy hands Nathan the list of troubled attendees and tells him that the meeting is probably a good idea. We might have to gear up.
People are already divided. There's no going back. All that's left now is for you to choose a side.
Things are not looking great. Now, finally, we discover what Nathan's secret phone call was about. He's been tracking down Lucy Ripley's address for Audrey.
Whose address is this?
I'm right, it's Lucy Ripley's.
He's actually been trying to track her down the whole time since they discovered that she was a thing to help Audrey figure out what's going on. Audrey pulls him in for a hug and thanks him very sincerely.
You leave now, you can be there before dark.
Thank you.
He says that she can go see her right now because she's not even that far away. He tells her that she can finally go get some answers. This is very, very kind of him. They look at each other for a bit and it's very charged, it's very magnetic.
You're not just my partner either.
Oh my god. She starts to walk towards her car to head off to see Lucy, but then she stops in her tracks. Now prepare yourselves, everyone, because then this happens. After making everyone's hearts explode, Audrey heads off to go see Lucy Ripley. Now, because these two are officially romantic now, that's what I'm calling it, I'm going to put them on each other's trees. There they are, because they had a kiss. It's a thing now, okay? Audrey finds Lucy Ripley fishing out by a lake. Lucy Ripley recognizes Audrey, but it just kind of makes things even crazier.
Did someone tell you that I was coming here?
You did, 27 years ago.
I'll try to make things as simple as possible. Forgive me. I'm going to call this Lucy, Audrey's reincarnation Lucy, just Lucy, and I'm going to call real Lucy, Lucy Ripley. 27 years ago, when Audrey was Lucy, she tracked down Lucy Ripley and said she has her memories.
You said you had my memories.
Did I said that?
Yes.
This is hard. Audrey and Lucy Ripley both agree
I'm not you, and I'm not Audrey Parker.
I don't know who you are.
she's someone else, but no one knows who that is or who that could be. Lucy Ripley then says that Lucy told her 27 years ago when they met up that she was helping troubled people in Haven.
You were helping people with strange troubles.
Yeah, that seems to be a pattern.
Which we kind of already knew. We kind of already knew that Lucy and the chief were doing that 27 years ago. Lucy Ripley says that Lucy told her that someone had died.
Someone died.
When they last met up, which we can assume is the Colorado kid. That's what this Lucy would have been telling Lucy Ripley about, was the Colorado kid's death. Lucy also told Lucy Ripley that she had discovered a way to stop the Troubles forever.
You could finally stop them.
But people were trying to find her and erase her.
They were trying to erase you.
Whatever that means. Lucy Ripley then tells Audrey that someone came looking for Lucy a little while after they met up.
A few months after you left, a man came here. Said there were people after you and that he could help.
But Lucy Ripley got really bad vibes from this person who was looking for her, so she didn't say anything.
But there was something about him. I didn't tell him anything.
Audrey then asks Lucy Ripley who this person was, and Lucy Ripley says that it was a guy named
Simon Crocker.
Simon Crocker. Okay? It was Simon that was looking for Lucy for some reason. Are we following? It's a lot. Duke's dad had it out for Audrey back when she was Lucy, trying to track her down, and it was bad vibes. Very easy to follow. Meanwhile, Duke and Dwight find something that his dad hid for him on his boat. Simon, his dad, that we just found out wanted to maybe kill Lucy. We're still following. That is a mozzie. It's a big silver chest with stuff in it, weird stuff, like weapons and a journal. This is important. This journal sticks around. Audrey rocks up to Duke's boat because she wants to talk to him about how his dad was looking for her when she was Lucy. She would like to kind of discuss that. Dwight tries to dip while they're having this conversation, and Duke makes a probably unintentional reference to the second Uncharted game.
What happened to honor amongst thieves?
Honor among thieves, huh?
Duke and Dwight begin fighting again. Then something really interesting happens though, because Duke cuts Dwight and gets some of his blood on his skin, and then Duke's eyes turn silver. He also gets superhuman strength suddenly. He goes back to normal pretty quickly, but everyone's pretty shook. Dwight then goes to tell Vince what happened, and Vince doesn't seem all that shocked.
He has it. He cut me.
Surprise, he knew that that's something that Duke could do. I've had enough of Vince and Dave. Nathan shows up to the troubled people meeting, feeling pretty great because of the whole earth-shattering kiss earlier, so he's kind of on cloud nine.
Sometimes risks pay off.
I wish I could be too. I wish I could still be riding that wave, but I've got all of this crazy context that we have to deal with. So now Duke and Audrey discuss what's happening because it's all a little bit crazy. They open up the chest and start to go through all of it. Duke then recognizes his father's handwriting in the journal that I mentioned earlier, and the two of them read a very concerning passage that he's written.
And I haven't survived. I thought that your dad died in an accident.
Yeah, I'm starting to think not.
To you to finish my work, you must kill her.
We see a picture of Audrey with the really scary red wig, and we also see a picture of Audrey as Lucy, and it's made very clear that Simon Crocker wanted his son Duke to kill whoever this person came back as in the next 27 years.
Why did he want you to kill me?
So Simon from the grave wants Duke to kill Audrey. Business as usual. Episode 12 is our finale, sort of. Technically no, but plot-wise yes, because episode 13 is a special Christmas episode, which is very random, but that's what's happening with season 2. Let's just deal with episode 12. It's called Sins of the Fathers, and it is fantastic. It's a Haven season finale. We should expect nothing less. The episode opens with a man being woken up by a ghost, and then the ghost makes the man shoot and kill the woman. Duke and Audrey run into each other in town. Bit awkward.
Hey, Duke.
Can I talk to you?
Actually, I'm busy. Can we just do this later?
Audrey's not in a great mood. Understandable. She's got a lot going on. Duke does clarify that he's totally not going to kill her, which is nice of him.
I didn't like him when he was alive, and I'm certainly not going to kill anyone for him now that he is dead.
I don't know how much peace of mind that is for our girl right now.
It's good. I can check that off my list.
Audrey barges into the Herald to confront Vince and Dave, who have been lying to her about knowing Lucy and also knowing Red Wig Audrey. Our girl is fed up with the bullshit.
All this time, I've been searching for my identity, and you knew who I was?
She asks them why they haven't told her anything, and they say they thought she wasn't ready. That is not a good enough excuse. They explain that she was Lucy 27 years ago, and before that she was Sarah.
Before that, Sarah.
Who we can assume is unfortunate Red Wig Audrey. So let's pop her on the tree. All right, we have another past life for Audrey. Now I know that the unfortunate wig pick is upsetting to look at. It's all that we have visual-wise at the moment though. I do apologise. I promise that Sarah gets justice next season. But for now, we do have to deal with looking at the Ronald McDonald situation. Vince and Dave explain the basics of what they know about how Audrey and her reincarnation works.
There's a lot we don't understand. Like where you go in between the trouble.
How you always look the same, a new person's memory each time you return.
The only thing that's the same is that you always help the troubled when you do.
Vince then gives her a ring that he says was Sarah's and explains that Sarah was a friend to him. Audrey tells Vince and Dave that she's not done getting answers from them, but she leaves for a case, and then the two of them are really ominous again.
She needs my help. You're not getting in my way this time.
Duke is chilling on his boat, shirtless, of course. But then to ruin the moment, his dead dad shows up. Simon Crocker is here, and we have a visual on him. So now he's going on here. Here's Simon. That's Duke's dead dad. Audrey shows up to the murder scene, and Nathan is in a great mood, which does clash with Audrey's current state. They discuss the ghost case a bit before Nathan gets all cute and asks Audrey for dinner.
We should have dinner together.
He's finally doing it. Audrey instantly agrees that they should do it tomorrow night. Let's do it ASAP, because she wants to talk about Lucy and everything. She wants to share with him. Audrey says she can make pancakes, which leads to this fabulous moment.
How would I make pancakes?
We talking dinner or breakfast?
I'm obsessed. Duke re-enters the scene at his boat, but with more clothing this time. Duke thinks he's imagining his dead dad, which in any other town is a reasonable conclusion, but not here. He's probably actually back. We get some exposition about how Simon was a shitty dad.
And then you'll show back up, bloody and beaten up, and expect me to nurse you back to health.
I know I was a grandfather.
His dad asks Duke if he's cured anyone yet, which Duke brushes off. He's not ready for that, and neither am I. Simon says that he used to save people when he was in Haven. That's something that he did, but Duke's like, how could you possibly have done that? And then we get the huge revelation that when Duke kills a troubled person, he kills their trouble too.
When someone from our family kills a cursed person, we don't just kill their body, we kill the curse too.
This is so important, so important, too important. Poor Duke is all I'm going to say about how important this is. Duke is really not thrilled about the ethics of this and the whole murder part of the equation.
So you save them from being alive. Got it.
Simon tries to sweeten it though by clarifying that the trouble dies across the whole bloodline.
The curse dies in the whole family. No one will ever get it again. Not the children, not the grandchildren. The curse never comes back.
So no one else in further generations will ever get that trouble again. It's just gone forever. Duke is still not on board because of the murder part.
You just have to murder somebody to do it. Wow, you really are a piece of work.
Nathan and Audrey are now at the cemetery investigating the ghost stuff. They talk to a gravedigger named Kyle Hopkins. He's not a fun dude.
Because of you, I had to bury Reverend Driscoll, and I know what you are.
You need to watch your mouth.
His kind wants to have meetings, and my kind needs to call it like it is.
Kyle is also not super keen on helping Nathan and Audrey out with the case, which is annoying. Nathan decides to throw some sass at him though, which is always a pleasure to see.
So that joint you just tossed, it could cost you some time, or you could dig up a grave. It's your call.
They dig up the ghost guy's body, and he's definitely dead. Super dead. They discuss what might be going on.
Zombies are trendy.
Nathan gets a call about another case, and Audrey asks if another dead guy did it, as like a joke, and then Nathan clarifies.
That girl told her brother to do it.
So ghosts are appearing in Haven, and then getting people to kill each other. Super fun. Kyle is now replacing some grass in the cemetery after the exhumation that they just did, and then... unfortunately, it does happen. Unfortunately, the Rev does appear as a ghost. He is back. He asks Kyle for help with something, so upset that this man is back in town. Dead Simon tells Duke about a time where he could have saved a bunch of people by killing an old man and killing his curse and trouble. So he could have prevented a bunch of death by killing this troubled person. So he's trying to convince Duke that this is something that he should start doing. Nathan and Audrey find time to have some sexual tension while investigating the ghost stuff. They've got their priorities straight. They really do. The Rev has given Kyle a list of troubled people and tells him to mark their houses. Ew. Nathan is now warning Audrey about Duke again. It's very season 1.
You think you know Duke?
I do.
No, you don't.
He also lets Audrey know how his trouble came back in adulthood. It's Duke's fault.
A couple years ago, Duke rolled back into town, wanted to be friends again.
It's very much Duke's fault.
I found out the real reason he wanted me to go fishing. Figured if the Coast Guard pulled up, I could flash my badge. We'd beat on each other for an hour. And then I realized that I couldn't feel it. My trouble came back because of that fight with Duke, and I don't think he even gave a damn.
For some reason, whenever we get stories about Nathan and Duke in their past, it's just sad. Except for Little League.
You and Duke were in Little League?
I forgot about Little League. That was fun. So Nathan is very much back on the don't trust Duke train. Audrey doesn't really know what to do with that. Suddenly Nathan starts to see a bunch of ghosts circling them, but Audrey can't see them. Audrey points out the inconvenience of her immunity right now.
So ghosts are wandering the streets of Haven and I'm the only one that can't see them. That's perfect.
The ghosts just peace out after doing that little dramatic circle. What was that for, guys? We see Duke chilling at his dad's grave, burying the chest with the weapons and the journal. He's burying that, trying not to deal with it. Nathan and Audrey approach him, and then he fills them in on his trouble. I kill troubled people and their trouble goes away trouble that he has.
You can end a trouble?
I have to kill someone to do it. Try not to forget that part.
Duke and Audrey discuss their purposes in Haven, which is fitting because they're both having some revelations. Duke's really struggling with knowing that he could potentially help people by killing them.
Troubles keep coming back. People keep dying.
I have no alternative.
But what if you did?
Nathan drops the knowledge real quick that Kyle Hopkins has buried all of the people that have come back to life. Again, we've picked it up by now. This is obviously Kyle's trouble. He buries someone, they come back as a ghost. Then Nathan sees the chief wandering around the cemetery. The chief is back! Audrey immediately tells him to go talk to him. Go have some time with your dad.
That's a gift. You don't pass that up. Go.
Duke and Audrey head off to go find Kyle, while Nathan has a moment. It is so nice to see the chief. It's so nice to see him.
Hello, Nathan. Chief.
The whole scene is just brilliant. If it wasn't clear in the last part how obsessed I am with the Nathan Chief dynamic and how that's portrayed on screen, this is kind of the epitome of that. This scene, it encompasses all of that. Nathan asks the chief why he's back.
Dad, what are you doing here?
The chief asks Nathan how he's doing.
How are things? How are you doing? I'm talking to my dead dad in the graveyard.
Nathan fills him in on some of the happenings in town.
How did you explain my death and everything?
Told people you were lost at sea. I picked up your pieces, put them in a cooler, buried you on Goose Hill.
You buried me in a cooler? What cooler?
Blue one?
What a waste of a good cooler.
The chief's very happy with the fact that Audrey killed the Rev.
Reverend Driscoll's dead.
Parker shot him. Good for her.
We're on the same page, him and I, about that. The chief clocks that Nathan and Audrey are getting all lovey-dovey.
Are you in love?
I don't know what it is.
But he says they've got to shut it down.
Well, stop. What?
He says no. Audrey cannot happen. Nathan is just not allowed to be in love with Audrey.
She's in love with you. She want to take risks for you, and we can't have that. You have got to keep her alive.
Nathan just says, sorry, Dad. Can't help it.
You wasted your time.
Can't help it. None of us can. Duke and Audrey are trying to track down Kyle, but they notice a mark on the ground in front of a house, so they decide to go check that out first. It looks like someone has been taken/attacked. While looking at kind of the signs of struggle, Duke freezes and we realize that he can see the Rev. But once again, Audrey can't see him. But Duke can. Audrey spared his presence. But not really, actually, because he's still there. So she probably should know that he's there. I'd say he's a little bit cranky about getting murdered. Duke sends Audrey inside the house and away from the Rev. Then he tells the Rev to back off, get out. But the Rev gets all scary and threatening as usual.
Or I'll take my revenge on Audrey Parker.
And Duke is forced to go with him. Nathan then has to pick up Audrey because Duke dipped and left her there without transportation. Nathan also doesn't appreciate it.
I can't believe Duke just left here.
Something else Nathan doesn't like is the concept of telling Audrey anything that his dad told him.
And I can't believe that you're not going to tell me what your dad said.
In the cemetery, he doesn't want to share what they talked about, which I get, because how do you approach that conversation? My dead ghost dad doesn't want me to be in love with you. I guess you just say it like that. The two of them are just real cute about it though, as always.
I told you, he said you're important to the town.
Yeah, I know that. That's warned us for not telling you. But don't worry. I'm not worried. I'll get it out of you later.
The two of them follow Kyle's wife to try and find out where Kyle is, and they end up in the woods. It's pretty much a 50-50 in Haven that you'll just end up in the woods at some point. The two of them see the Rev's men dragging unconscious people out of a van and into a shed. It's not looking great. They realise that all the people inside are troubled and they've been tracked down to be collected, put in the shed, and then killed. Thanks, Rev. That's a really fun thing that you've organised. Nathan clocks the Rev and tells Audrey that he's here before they both get guns pulled on them and then dragged into the bad situation going on with the shed and the unconscious people. And now the whole gang is here though. Everyone's here. The Rev wants Duke to use his trouble to kill all of the people in the shed and cure their troubles for good. That's what he wants Duke to do. So that was his plan. This whole time with him being weird with Duke was for him to use his trouble-killing trouble to kill people with troubles. Oh no. If this is a lot, like this season, season 2, for me to try to explain, I don't know how. I don't know. Audrey and Nathan are not loving Duke's energy right now because he's kind of got a knife and he's waving it around and it's not looking great. It's really cool how we continue to swap between Audrey's perspective and everyone else's where all the ghosts are there. Like we actually swap back and forth to scenes like an exact shots where the ghosts are there and then they're not there. And I just think that's really nice. They didn't have to put that effort in to show that, but they did. And I like it. Audrey tells Kyle that he is troubled himself and that he's been bringing ghosts to Haven by digging people's graves.
Everyone that's come back, they have one thing in common. You dug their graves.
She lets him know that he is also a troubled person. Duke's dad is in Duke's ear again, trying to get him to kill troubled people. He's really trying to get that happening. Kyle is really upset. The Rev then tells Kyle that Duke can save his unborn child because his wife, I don't know if I mentioned that, his wife's pregnant. I don't think I mentioned that. Anyway, the Rev tells Kyle that Duke can save his unborn child from the trouble if Duke kills Kyle. Okay, now this has always been a lot for me, but I feel like that's the point. I think it's supposed to be kind of crazy. Like if we're so worried about this kid inheriting the trouble, why don't we just not let the kid dig graves? Then ghosts won't come back, right? Can't the kid just not dig graves? There's lots of other things to do. I guess, though, we kind of learn later on that troubles evolve with the times. I feel like that becomes a thing. But still, what could this kid possibly do that would bring ghosts back? I don't know. But again, I think that's the point.
Save him. Save his family.
These people really genuinely believe being troubled is a worse fate than being dead. Being troubled is so sinful. It's obviously a metaphor or an allegory or whatever it is. It has been the whole time. Being troubled has been for oppression and things like that. This is just a lot for me. The fact that it's a grave digging trouble. Anyway, I'm letting it go. No matter what the trouble is, death is a better fate. It's dark shit. Kyle now just straight up asks Duke to kill him.
Please, you have to do it. You have to save my child from getting the curse.
Audrey's not on board. The Rev and Simon tell Duke not to listen to Audrey.
Don't listen to her. She's a liar.
But of course, Duke is like,
No, she's my friend.
She's my friend. Simon says that Sarah killed his father.
Your friend killed your grandfather. Her name was Sarah then.
And that Lucy killed him.
She was Lucy when she killed me.
And that Audrey is going to kill Duke.
And she will kill you.
That's what he thinks is going to happen. Suddenly, Kyle runs at Duke, who is still holding the knife in a dangerous outward position, which means that Kyle has now been stabbed by Duke, sort of. Kyle's blood sinks into Duke's skin and his eyes go silver again. So that's how this works. That's the procedure with Duke's trouble. He gets troubled blood on his skin. It evaporates into his skin. He gets silver eyes, superhuman strength, and then he can kill somebody with the trouble and cure them. That's what he can do. That's Duke. Nathan is really not super chill about it. No one is. It's not a super chill situation. So now that Kyle is officially dying, all of the ghosts are starting to fade out of existence, and Simon and the chief actually cheerlead for their sons a little bit, which is kind of adorable of them.
She can't stop my son.
I have a son too. Damn good one.
After all the ghosts disappear and that chaos is officially over, Audrey is preparing for her date with Nathan at her loft. She gets a knock on her door and obviously presumes that it's Nathan, so she goes to open it. But instead of Nathan, it's someone who tases her. She gets tased and then collapses. I should have started a tase counter as well. So many people get tased on this show. Everybody gets a turn of tase time. They really do. Nathan finally shows up at the loft and sees the scene and that Audrey has obviously been attacked and taken. So he's not thrilled about that. He's also not thrilled about finding Duke's whistle that he always wears on the ground amongst the mess. I think we can all understand how Nathan's feeling and who he might be a little bit cranky at. One thing about our boy Nathan here is that he leaps to conclusions. He leaps. Therefore, he staunches onto Duke's boat, demanding to know where Audrey is. He's very, very angry and shows Duke the whistle that he found, Duke's whistle. Duke instantly realizes that this is some kind of a setup, and he also realizes that Nathan for real might kill him. That is a possibility, especially if he's convinced that Duke has done something to hurt Audrey. Nathan will become murderous. Things get super tense. Nathan pulls his gun and... oh no. We see that our ride or die man has in fact gotten Duke's death tattoo symbol on his forearm. He's done that specifically so that he is able to kill Duke, because this is exactly where the tattoo was in the vision of Duke's death. So Nathan's gotten that done so that he can kill Duke. I'll talk about it later, I promise. For now, let's just finish. Let's close out the episode. Duke reaches for his gun under the table because he's like, oh, Nathan's going to kill me. Nathan's actually going to kill me right here. We swap to an exterior shot of the boat and then we hear a gunshot. That's season 2. But wait, there's more. Merry Christmas. Episode 13 is Silent Night, and it's a super random Christmas episode. It's a Christmas special. I don't know why. Let's just enjoy it. It is canon, but it takes place before the events of the previous episode. Don't need to expect to see anything to do with tattoo behavior. That's not relevant right now. I'll talk pretty briefly about the Christmas special, and then we'll get into favorite episodes, traumatized characters, and I'll talk a little bit more about Vince and Dave narrate a recap for us, probably doing a better job than I can, to be honest, but at least I tell people things as I find them out. At least I do that. A woman is stand-up paddleboarding on the coast of Haven. Silent Night starts playing in like the air, I guess, and then she gets sliced up. It is quite graphic in comparison to regular episodes. It's kind of a lot. Nathan and Audrey are being adorable and hanging out. Joe from Joe's Bakery, that I'm sure I've talked a lot about previously. There's a bakery called Joe's Bakery. It's world building, okay? Joe's really grateful about all the things that Nathan and Audrey do for troubled people, and he owns a bakery. We soon find out that Christmas is Nathan's favourite time of year.
It's my favourite time of year.
Very cute. Audrey notes that it's still summer though, so he can calm down.
Summertime?
Which does always take me a second to be like, why is that weird? But yeah, it's supposed to be really cold. Over here, you are supposed to be sweating through the Santa hats and having a very hot day. Side note, again, we love these, I'm sure. I love Nathan in a t-shirt. There's not a lot I don't love Nathan in. It's just an overall being thing. Silent Night starts playing again, and then a man starts hanging from Christmas decorations that he was setting up. Not very Christmas cheer of him. They free him though, he doesn't die. It's fine. Nathan keeps saying that it's Christmas Eve, but Audrey's like, Nathan, it's July.
It's not Christmas Eve, it's July.
Which is weird no matter where you are on the globe. Nathan acts like it's normal though. He's like, yeah, Of course it's July, and it's Christmas. He then realizes that Audrey's Grinch behavior is probably because she's an orphan and she's never had a family to celebrate Christmas with.
That's why you hate Christmas.
She's like, yeah.
Do you think, Dr. Phil?
But also it's not Christmas time. Audrey snatches Nathan's radio and tells Laverne to look out for suspicious people putting up Christmas decorations. And Laverne says to Audrey, why?
But why? It's Christmas Eve.
It's Christmas time, people be putting up Christmas decorations. Everyone in town thinks that it's Christmas, except Audrey. Nathan tells Audrey about the severed body that washed up on shore, so they should probably deal with that. Audrey picks up her phone and then Silent Night starts playing again. A looming presence. Stan tells Audrey about a suspicious man leaving Christmas decorations around town. This suspicious man is dressed up as Santa and he's in lockup. He's also Duke. It's Duke in a Santa suit. Duke also tells Audrey to chill. He's like, it's Christmas time, babe.
You think that it's Christmas too? It's July.
Yeah, so?
What are you worried about? The power starts to randomly get weird in the station, and then Stan disappears from existence, and everyone forgets who he is. They're like, who's Stan?
Who's Stan?
Audrey's like, Stan? What do you mean, who's Stan? Everyone thinks that her issue is just that she doesn't like Christmas. Nathan continues to unintentionally gaslight Audrey.
It's not Christmas Eve.
Everyone knows it's Christmas Eve.
It's also clear that people are disappearing all over town, just like Stan did. So it's not just a Stan issue. It's an everyone in town issue. Audrey drags Duke to help investigate the strange Christmas shenanigans that only Audrey realizes are happening. Joe from Joe's Bakery has disappeared now, the famous Joe. Audrey then drags Duke to the severed body, and then she calls Nathan, who says that the two of them are the only cops in Haven.
You and I are the only cops in Haven.
Which again, I mentioned this earlier, it kind of feels like that anyway. Kind of feels like they're the only ones that do anything. Then the severed body also disappears. People are just peacing out of Haven. Audrey goes to talk to Vince and Dave about any past Christmas-related Haven stuff. Audrey also discovers that Haven used to have 20,000 people in it, but now it only has 3,000. Duke is now on Audrey's team, and they try to get Nathan on board too. Duke interrupts a sincere moment between the two.
You trust your partner?
Yes.
Thank you.
This is a nice moment.
Regular Duke behavior.
Okay, I'll go in the car.
Nathan drops a sassy zinger, as always.
I hope you're happy, because I'm starting to hate Christmas too.
Before joining them on their investigation. Silent Night starts playing on the radio in the Bronco, which we know to be an unfortunate omen, so we should be worried about that. The population has also dropped down to 1,700 people now. Duke disappears next. Don't love it. A bird runs into seemingly nothing in the sky. Audrey realizes that there's an invisible wall on the edge of Haven. Nathan tries to shoot it, and it doesn't work. He gives it a shot, though. Literally, the population continues to drop. Nathan and Audrey visit a Christmas store owned by their suspect. They think he's put Haven into a snow globe. We get a fake-out Nathan disappearance, which is scary.
Oh, and leave you all alone on what I'm pretty sure is not Christmas.
And then we get a real disappearance. It's an emotional roller coaster. It ends up just being Audrey and the kid who is causing the disappearances and putting people in the snow globe. Silent Night keeps playing, and it's just as creepy and weird as ever. Also, a weird Christmas sludge starts to kind of cover all of the buildings down the street in Haven. The town's turning into a snow globe. That's what's happening. We get an absolutely hilarious shot of Audrey's face, like looking down on Haven. It's giving Teletubbies Sun Baby. It really is. Everything gets solved, of course. They're out of the snow globe. The town's not a snow globe anymore, and no one remembers what happened.
I'm having one of those Haven moments.
Nathan arrives at Audrey's loft where she's throwing a Christmas party. Duke walks in too, so he's also invited, of course. Vince and Dave actually make their first mention of blaming Haven stuff on a gas leak. This becomes a running gag.
I guess we could call it a gas leak.
Everything is a gas leak. Everything Haven-y, gas leak. Then this happens with Nathan and Duke. I'm a little bit obsessed with that. Audrey has a present for both Duke and Nathan. It's a present that they mentioned earlier that they both wanted as kids. So that's really sweet. Everyone keeps asking Audrey what happened that day because she's the only one that knows. And she just gives them a really wholesome answer.
I was reminded how important friends really are.
The episode ends with everyone singing "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." It's absolutely adorable. All right, now that Christmas is over, we can get back to the official season finale, aka episode 12, Sins of the Fathers. I think we have to address the big old death tattoo in the room, unfortunately. I know what you're thinking. How are you going to defend your favorite man this time? Because this behavior is very out of pocket. For him, it is a very wild thing to do. I can acknowledge that. I do recognize that. However, I think that I love it for him. Let me explain. Back in season 1, we saw how angry Nathan got when the evil shadow attacked Jess and she was put in danger. So that was kind of established as a reaction that he has to people that he cares about being in peril. We also saw how pissed he got this season when Audrey was consistently putting herself at risk. So now that Nathan thinks that Duke has abducted Audrey, it does make sense for him to go after Duke. And escalating behavior is how we get good television. I'm sorry. The death tattoo feels right to me. It does. I'm sorry. I will continue to defend this man. I can't help it. So in terms of my top 3 episodes this season, I almost chose episode 1, A Tale of Two Audreys, just because of how strong of an opener it was. Not only because we had 2 Audreys and we were first dealing with that, but also the biblical plagues as a trouble was awesome. It was so fun. However, I do have to pick Lockdown instead. I do have to pick Lockdown. I love episodes that can take one location and still keep the stakes really high, still keep the drama really high, still keep the character relationships really interesting. I appreciate that so much. Also, I love the Haven Police Station. Evie's death was such a huge and shocking moment. The trouble with the veins and projecting the poisonous abuse onto other people, that was so interesting. The politics with the new chief and that whole situation with the Rev kind of controlling things was really good. It overall had a really tense vibe. Also, we discovered that Dwight's a bullet magnet in this episode. The story really felt huge in a small proximity, which I really appreciated. Also, the ultimate end of Chris and Audrey's relationship felt really earned. Next, I chose Who, What, Where, Wendigo. Are we surprised? No. Following directly after lockdown, it took us to a new location and kind of kept us there the whole time. I love the woods as a setting. It's so vibey. Also, the trouble was really gruesome. Cannibals. There was huge stakes once again. The Rev died. Audrey shot the Rev. Also, Audrey's behavior and slays and just roasting everyone. I can't not have that in my top 3 just purely because of her behavior and also the fact that the Rev died. That's all that needed to happen for it to end up in the top 3. When dramatic things are happening in the trio, it's really good. Finally, I'm sure no one is surprised to see that number 1 is the finale. It's Sins of the Fathers. I love a Haven finale. I always do. And this one was no exception. It was top tier. The war on troubled people really came to a head. That was getting built up really well throughout the whole season, so it was great to see the climax of that. Reappearances from iconic characters, most specifically the Chief, who I love. The dynamics of our main trio once again being mixed up and kind of clashed against each other. Duke as an outsider and Nathan and Audrey finally starting to step up their relationship a little bit. It was really good. We also deal with Duke's trouble for the first time. That is crazy that this is the first time that we discover that that's a thing. Also, the cliffhanger was just absolutely wild. They did not have to go so hard with that, but they did. After this episode, I had finally caught up to the show airing weekly, so I was waiting for season 3 to start premiering. I really do remember being like, what is going on? What happened to Audrey? Did Nathan kill Duke? Did Duke kill Nathan? It was really effective. I was on the edge of my seat. Also, I was 12. All of our main characters really shone, not only this episode, but this whole season. They just get better and better until I have some issues way later on, but we'll get to it. Now, this season's most traumatized character. Once again, I think no one will be shocked to learn that I have chosen Duke. It's Duke. Duke is our most traumatized character for season 2. Finding out that you're literally destined to kill troubled people Like people that have these troubles that they didn't ask for, they can't control, and you're destined to kill them in order to free them from that. Traumatizing. You get silver-eyed and superhuman strength when any of their blood touches you. Even if you're not trying to attack them, if you accidentally touch a troubled person's blood, you have to deal with all of that. Also, the woman that you really care about, her past selves have kind of generationally taken out both your grandfather and your father, and now your ghost father comes back to tell you that he thinks that she's going to kill you next. How do you deal with that? Oh, and we can't forget Evie, his wife, who betrayed and lied to him a little bit and then died in his arms. And his longest friend just got a tattoo purely so that he can kill him. That is the only reason that this man got inked up, just so he can possibly kill you. Poor Duke. He is our most traumatized character this season, for sure. As sure as Nathan was for season 1, Duke is for season 2. This season was so huge for plot twists, revelations, and so much info. I wish that I could say that it slows down in further seasons and gets easier to digest, but it doesn't, so I won't say that. If anything, it just gets significantly more difficult to follow and deal with. Buckle up, I guess. Season 3 is my all-time favorite season. I love it so much. I would go as far as to say it's a perfect season. I would say that. So get ready for more Haven, more top-tier Haven. Season 3. I'll see you there.